Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Raccoon City Resident Evil. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by the ADVENT91 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. July 23, 1998 Raccoon City. It was the 23rd in the month of July within the year of 1998, the day was still bright and the Namikaze family was still buzzing with life within its walls living in the neighborhood. 4 individuals lived in this household, one being a retired soldier and police officer Minato Namikaze, who was the husband of Kushina Namikaze, who was a doctor of the Raccoon City Hospital and one of the best. They had a single child within the household who was currently 16 years old, who was in his upstairs room listening to his music through his headsets as he lied atop his bed, the teenager listening to one of his favorite Japanese artists called Gact. If one were to look at the foot of his bed, one would see his canine dog curled up resting just under his feet. This canine was named Kurama. The teenager's name was none other than Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He moved with his family from home that was Tokyo, leaving behind all of his few friends he had and assholes that picked on him for kicks. In fact, Naruto was born and lived in Konoha, which was a large, rich, economic and strong town, but ever since that incident that took place which he seemed to have no memory of. After that he moved to Tokyo with his parents to get away, but even within Japan, it wasn't enough, so he and his family decided to move into America so as to start over. Right now Naruto had just gotten out of school, that was his 11th grade junior life within the walls of Raccoon City High School, and he had the highest grades within his classes. He was no idiot. Here is also another interesting fact, as Naruto had gotten into only 2 fights here at Raccoon City High. They intended to pick on the new kid. Let's just say it didn't end the way they wanted it to. They were even being racist with him when he first arrived, calling him names and insults due to his ethnicity. They assumed he was only Japanese descended, but in truth he was only half of that, since his mother was a redhead American, his father was full Japanese. So Naruto is really half Japanese and American. Now if Naruto wasn't taught how to fight from his father in martial arts, then perhaps those bullies that picked on him in school could have won. Naruto in his martial arts was above that of an average level and was also experienced in swordsmanship and with that of a katana, although he has never used a real one but practiced with a wooden one. Naruto, like his father, had the color of his hair being that of the color blonde, but only that it wasn't in his father's hairstyle. His hair was spiky and like that of Clouds within Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, blue eyes and white skin. His face was like that of his mother's. Naruto does not have whisker marks. He wore a black leather jacket that was his father's STARS jacket, having the patch of STARS on the back, and he was only able to wear the jacket so long as Minato wasn't on duty, and he wasn't for a week. That's right, Naruto's father was part of Raccoon City Police Department Special Tactics and Rescue Service, otherwise known as STARS, and was that of Bravo Team. Back to the rest of the clothing, that he wore a white shirt underneath the jacket, black shoes and pants. Naruto sat himself up, taking off his headphones just in time to see the news on his television, which was airing the Raccoon City news. The subject was that of the disappearances of the citizens who ventured into the mountains never returning, as well as gathered evidence of suspected cannibalism. He continued to watch and listened as the news lady on the station mentions that the city's police department was dispatching its STARS unit to investigate. Ad is a part of the force. Naruto recalled. His father had a week of vacation off from work from captain of STARS himself, Albert Wesker. Minato right now was actually confused as to why he was given the week off. I wonder what dad's job is like. He wondered aloud and looks down to Kurama at the foot of his bed, that looks back at him and gives a single bark. Right, Kurama? Naruto asked as he pets his companion atop its head, giving it some scratches as well, which Kurama enjoyed. Naruto heard footsteps coming up the stairs outside his room, and opening his door, revealing himself was Minato, his father. Hey buddy. Minato greeted. Dad? So your mother is working late tonight? Minato said. And your team is going into the mountains? Naruto mentioned. Yeah. You worried? Naruto asked. Yes I am. Minato answered. Why don't you go? I wanted to, but the captain believes that I earned the week off. Just you, Naruto said as his dad gave him a nod. Don't you find that kind of stranger somewhat suspicious? I do. Chris and the others deserve a vacation as well. Not to mention that you're a valued member of the team. Naruto said. Well, I don't mean to brag, but yeah. Naruto's father said with a smile. So what's the plan? Naruto asked. Well, I'm going down to the station to pick up my paycheck. Want to come with? Kurama. The RPD loves dogs. Minato said after we'll get something to eat. He said and began making his way downstairs with Naruto following, while Naruto called Kurama to follow. Minato and Naruto, along with Kurama having arrived at the station in a truck, now walk and enter through the doors of the police station. Minato was immediately getting greetings from his fellow officers of the RPD. "I'll be right back, Naruto, have a seat over there," the man said, with him getting an okay from his son, who walked to with Kurama following to an empty chair while Minato himself went to go and pick up his check. As Minato ventured in the station, he soon came upon a desk where he would pick up his paycheck. "Minato, isn't it your week off?" The familiar voice called, and Minato looked to the source of the voice, citing Chris Redfield of Alpha Team STARS. "Hey there, Chris, just picking up my pay," Minato said, retrieving his check and walking up to Chris, stopping before him. "You know Bravo Team is being deployed tonight, right?" Chris said, seeing as Minato was part of Bravo. "I assumed both teams were going in," Minato said, confused. Naruto was scratching the top of Kurama's head and occasionally go to scratching behind his ears when a certain captain of STARS took notice of Naruto, the man dressed in his STARS uniform like any other member, and he had slicked back blonde hair wearing a pair of black sunglasses. It was Albert Wesker. "The son of Minato Namikaze," Wesker said within his thoughts as he continued to watch the boy from his position. Suddenly Kurama started to growl, with Naruto obviously taking notice. "What's wrong, boy?" Naruto asked as he watched as his companion turned and looked to the direction of the man he was growling at, baring his teeth. Naruto looked in that same directions, with his eyes were looking upon Albert Wesker. The two stare at one another from a distance. "Who's that?" Naruto said as Kurama continued to growl. "Calm down, boy," Naruto said, patting Kurama's side. If there was one thing that Kurama can do, it was sensing the bad in people, and Naruto can just tell by looking at the man that was Wesker. He was definitely bad news. According to intel, this is Naruto Namikaze, 16 years of age, born October 10, 1982, currently a junior in school, and one of the few survivors of the Konoha attack in Japan, including his mother and father. Wesker thought. Before the man walks away, he gives Naruto from a distance a smirk before turning his head away, now having broken eye contact with Naruto. Interesting. Who was that? Naruto wondered as Kurama began to calm down until Wesker was out of sight. At the same time, Minato arrives that just waved Chris Redfield a farewell. Naruto's stomach growls, "I'm hungry." Wesker sat behind his desk having his computer on and was typing in a name that immediately brought up a file. The file came up from the database of the department's records, and it was the file of Naruto Namikaze, as the boy made him curious, seeing as he was a survivor of the Konoha attack 6 years ago. The Konoha attack. Konoha was a large-sized town that was bigger than Raccoon City that rested within Japan. The town was very popular as a tourist resort, attraction, or a place to have a vacation. Naruto was only 10 years old at the time, and at 10 p.m. a terrorist group attacked the large and peaceful town. The group that attacked to this day is unknown. According to reports, it was a biological attack, and Naruto managed to survive that attack and was found by his father when Umbrella forces along with Japanese forces moved in and took control of the situation. The attack was actually classified as a biological attack failure, seeing as it didn't go the way the terrorists expected to, but there were casualties that numbered in the thousands. It was quite the experience for Naruto that changed him. Naruto was once happy and full of energy, being quite the prankster. Now he was mostly quiet and keeping to himself, and also somewhat moody. That was not all, as he also could not recall any of the events, leaving doctors to believe that he was suffering from amnesia. However, it wasn't an amnesia that was inflicted upon like hitting his head, but one that was mentally self-inflicted. Whatever happened to him was so terrifying to him and was something that he didn't want to remember. He made himself forget. Refusing to remember such memories, and this amnesia was very rare. Luckily, the Konoha attack was the only event that Naruto couldn't remember, as he did know his own name, as well as when he was born, the simple things. His father, with UBCS forces from an Umbrella facility in Japan close by, found him unconscious but alive on the shore of a river. Naruto's survival did not go unnoticed, as he gained a sort of celebrity status even when he and his parents lived in Tokyo for the next 4 years. So to escape it all for Naruto's health, the Namikaze family moved to the United States, settling in the midwestern town that was Raccoon City. One would think, why move? Wouldn't they want Naruto to remember? Naruto honestly didn't want to. He preferred not remembering. He was afraid of what he would remember. Wesker chuckles, leaning back into his chair, and said, "Very interesting." Just then Wesker heard a knock on his office door, and with a click on the screen of his computer with his mouse, he X'd out Naruto's file before saying, "Come in." While standing up from his chair and entering was Chris Redfield, his point man of his alpha team of STARS. "Chris. Captain. Is there something you need?" Wesker asked. "It's about Bravo team going into the mountains tonight, Captain." "What of it?" Worried. "Not just that, Captain, but why just send in Bravo team? Shouldn't we be going in with them as well?" "Bravo team is being sent in to assess the situation, Chris. After such, we will be called in and put this investigation to a close. We intend to put a stop to these crimes of cannibalism, taking in the murderers or cults." Wesker lied. "Captain, if Bravo team is going in tonight, then don't you think Minato should go in as well? He is an asset on Bravo team and STARS." Wesker had an excuse for this. I gave him a week off so to be with his son. The man said as he sat himself in his chair. His son? Yes, tell me Chris, have you ever heard of the Konoha attack in Japan? I read about it, a lot of casualties caused by a group of terrorists, few survivors. Minato's son is one of those few that managed to escape and survive. Wesker revealed. Really? Yes, so I decided to give Minato some time off to be with his son, for the young man's health. That was very generous of you, sir. Anything else, Redfield? Wesker asked. No. But in Raccoon City at a gas station parked outside of it within one of its parking spaces was the truck of the Namikazes. Naruto and Minato were eating burgers as Naruto was sitting atop the truck's back railing with Kurama sitting in the back like a good boy and Minato leaning against the truck. Dad? Yeah? While I was waiting for you at the station I saw this guy. Yeah, Kurama didn't like him. Naruto said. Can you describe this man? Minato asked as he took another bite of his burger. Well, the guy had slicked back blonde hair and wore a pair of sunglasses, he even wore the same STARS uniform like you did while on duty. You know him? Naruto said and asked. Know him, he's my superior. Superior? The man you saw was Captain Albert Wesker of STARS and leads Alpha Team. He is also the unit's founder. Well, your captain was just staring at me. Pardon? Minato asked as he turned his head looking at his son. Yeah, we both stare at one another. All the while Kurama is growling at the guy. Kurama can sense the bad in people, Dad, and that guy Wesker, even while we stare at one another I can just feel it. The man is bad news. Naruto said. What else happened? He just suddenly walked away. That is strange, Minato said. More like creepy. Naruto said. Probably because he has never seen you around. As a matter of fact I never mentioned you to him. Please don't. Naruto was back home and was in the backyard of their house with a fence surrounding the backyard, Naruto with Kurama, and was playing fetch with him throwing a frisbee. Kurama running after and catching it within his mouth as he leaped into the air and would return it. Naruto would say good boy and make Kurama fetch it again as he continued to play with him. As he threw the frisbee once again he couldn't help but take notice of a large sign that was close by having umbrella advertisement on it that said preserving the health of the people. Naruto knew what umbrella was and what it did. He knew that it was a pharmaceutical company that created cosmetics, consumer products and foods. Naruto or anyone else was not aware of what Umbrella did behind its closed doors, not yet at least. To be honest, Naruto was annoyed with that sign standing out back about 6 houses down. Going into his backyard playing with Kurama and to see that sign every time, sometimes he wished he had mental superpowers and ignite the sign on fire just to get rid of it. What an eyesore, Naruto said as he was given the frisbee by Kurama and threw it once again having Kurama chase after it. As the day progressed the night came as Naruto was sitting at the table in the kitchen seeing it was 11 p.m, he was reading a manga called Karugo, who was a young ninja within his village, out to prove himself and cursed with holding an evil monster within him. The young ninja aims to become the best within his village to gain the respect he wants and to not be ignored, scorned or spied on, and was one that was aiming to become the ultimate ninja. The ninja Karugo was one with a lot of stamina and was loud and unpredictable. In the manga, all these ninja were able to use jutsu that can be conjured with the use of chakra. It was an interesting manga and he would be lying if he said that it wasn't one of his favorite mangas, but manga wasn't the only thing that he read because of course he read books. Hearing the sound of jingling keys at the front door and knowing who it was he closed the manga book that was Karugo setting it aside as his mother walked in through the front door. I'm home. Kushina Namikaze said as she walked in closing the door behind her as she wore her long brown coat around her nurse outfit with her purse hanging from her left shoulder. Hey mom. Naruto said as he looked over his shoulder toward her and like always his father walks into the picture, giving his wife a kiss on the side of her cheek. Hello Naruto, his mother said as her and his father walked into the kitchen. She was happy walking into the kitchen, seeing as Minato already made dinner, seeing as her husband and her son have been waiting for her to join them. As she sat down joining the rest of the family she can smell the food and see that it was warm and came out just in time. Kurama was even in the kitchen lying on the floor chewing on a bone courtesy of Minato. As the three were having their dinner they were unaware of knowing that STARS. Bravo team could not be contacted. It was at this night and at this time right now unbeknownst to Minato that STARS Alpha team was being sent into the mountains where their horrors would begin. That would be the beginning of a nightmare. July 24, 1998. He woke up in the morning of Tuesday from his bed and it was time for him to get dressed and get off to school. Getting out of bed he got his cloths from his drawers and his own jacket being a black leather coat with a hood he went to his upstairs bathroom. He took his shower, drying off afterwards to putting on his cloths being blue baggy jeans, a grey shirt wearing the jacket over it to putting on his black shoes. Afterwards he brushed his teeth to going back to his room, grabbing his sports-like backpack that looked like it was for a member of the basketball team to put his basketball in, only it was not for such a thing as this was his backpack. He makes sure that he has all of the appropriate things for school, being his books and finished homework, which he always finishes at school to get it over with and not worry about doing it at home later, and grabs his cell phone to heading downstairs and get breakfast. When he arrived downstairs he wasn't surprised seeing his mother making breakfast for him. It was good old delicious pancakes. Now that he was thinking of breakfast, his thoughts went to the character Karugo, who every morning sat down and ate a cup of ramen that was his breakfast, lunch and dinner, and repeat so on and so forth. Naruto wondered how Karugo could eat ramen all day almost every single day of his life. And what in his mind made him wear that embarrassing jumpsuit? Naruto wondered. He walked into the kitchen. "Morning, Mom." He greeted. "Morning, son, could you do me a favor and get your father, he's in his office," Kushina said. "Sure," Naruto said, turning on heel and walking down the hallway downstairs, passing his parents' shared bedroom and then bathroom, and then at the very end was Minato's office door. As he got closer and reached for the doorknob, he stops as he hears conversation between two individuals within the office, and one of them was obviously his father and the other sounded familiar. "Minato, I am telling you the truth. Umbrella is not what it seems or says it is. Wesker was even working for them, and because of that bastard we lost almost everyone. He even said the reason why he suggested your week off was because he knew you would become a problem out there," the male voice said. "You do believe me, don't you? We even went to Police Chief Irons and asked to investigate Umbrella, but he has so far kept turning us down." "I don't know, Chris, everything you say is like something out of a horror film," Minato's voice said, revealing Minato's guest being Chris Redfield. "You think I'm lying, don't you?" "No. I never said that, Chris. If Umbrella is responsible for such things, then indeed they should be investigated. Chief Irons not allowing you to do such a thing tells me otherwise to believe your story." "You think he's dirty like Wesker was?" Chris asked. Was Naruto thought. "I suspect so," Minato said. "I should have gone last night. Damn it." Naruto heard a pair of footsteps walking toward the door, and before he can leave, the door of Minato's office opens in front of him, and standing in the doorway in his path was Chris Redfield and his father Minato looking down at him. Naruto felt like someone that was caught sticking his hand in a cookie jar that wasn't his and wasn't supposed to get. "Son." "Oh, Dad. Mom sent me to come and get you, breakfast is ready," Naruto said. "Oh good, I'm starving," Minato said. "Would you like to join us, Chris?" "Sorry Minato, but I got to go. Look into all of this." "As you wish." Chris looked down at Naruto as if studying him and gave him a smile. "I can tell by just looking at you that you are going to become a great man like your father." "Thanks," Naruto said, and noticing that he was in the way he gave his apologies and stepped aside. Now seeing Naruto, he looked to Minato and said, "I forgot to mention to you something else, something that you should know." Chris said to Minato, giving him a serious look that also said that it was important. "I'm back at 3 today then." "Right," Chris said as he looked back at Naruto and gave him a smile, then patted on the young teen's right shoulder and leaves, walking down the hallway to going out the front door of their house. Naruto looks back up to his father, who only says, "Well, I'm hungry. Let's go see what your mom made," Minato said as he and his son make their way to the kitchen. "Pancakes," Naruto answered. "Spoiler," Minato said, pointing an accusing finger at his son, tears coming down his eyes. At the table, Naruto and Kushina were the only ones eating their food, Kurama lying next to Naruto's chair. It was here that both Kushina and Naruto noticed that Minato hadn't even touched his food yet, even though he said he was starving. The only thing he seemed to have done was drink his coffee. Looking at the man's face, Naruto knew that face, having seen it multiple times. It looked like his father was in deep thought about something, and Naruto knew it had to have had something to do with the conversation he was having with Chris. Something with Umbrella, Wesker being a traitor working for Umbrella and losing almost everyone, and Police Chief Irons denying investigation. Naruto remembered one part of Chris's words that he repeated within his mind. "Umbrella is not what it seems or says it is," Naruto thought, repeating Chris's words in his head. Then came the thought about that man Wesker being a traitor. I knew that guy was bad news. Minato had a lot on his mind from the story Chris told him. Almost all of Bravo team was killed, a mansion that was out in the Arklay Mountains, neither that he nor anyone else knew about, being a secret Umbrella facility. Dead walking flesh-eating dogs, the Walking Dead, and a weapon called the T-Virus, BOWs, giant snakes, Wesker being a traitor working for Umbrella as a double agent, a tyrant that Wesker himself wanted for his own gains that ended up killing him in the end, to them escaping from the mansion and killing the tyrant before it blew up, leaving behind no evidence to validate the survivors of last night's story. Only 5 survived the night, and they were Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Rebecca Chambers, Barry Burton and Brad Vickers. 4 Alpha STARS survived, while he and Rebecca were the only ones alive of Bravo STARS, and Minato was never there. Wesker that bastard, Minato should have insisted to have gone along with Bravo team. If he had gone things could have possibly gone a lot differently, who knows maybe more of Bravo team would still be alive or more STARS members at that. But seeing Minato as a problem Wesker managed to give Minato the week off keeping him out of the knowledge of the mansion incident or involved. After all Wesker did want to gather data and having Minato there would most likely have interfered with combat data gathering as well as Wesker's mission to destroying the mansion. Now that Minato thought about his week vacation that was requested by Wesker was approved by Police Chief Brian Irons, which must confirm that the chief of police was dirty, most likely bought out. It was a bioweapons outbreak within the mansion, and yet it was just in the mountains so close to home. Minato and his family leave Japan for Naruto's health to escape the memories of the failed bioweapons attack on Konoha, which were memories Naruto was aware of that he didn't remember and preferred not remembering them. Moving to America and Raccoon City where they can settle down only for another biohazard that didn't fail like in Konoha to succeed. Luckily with the explosion of the mansion where the biohazard was taking place was destroyed and didn't reach Raccoon City and Minato was grateful for that. However all the evidence was lost leaving nothing behind to convict Umbrella. Minato. Kushina's voice called and Minato snaps out of his train of thought, making some blinks with his eyes before settling them upon his wife. He can see that his son was looking at him as well, having a questionable look on his face, wondering what he was thinking about. Sorry about that, Minato said to his wife. Are you okay? Kushina asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Are you sure Dad? Naruto asked. You seem to be in deep thought as well as upset. Kushina said. That is when Minato decided to tell them almost all of Bravo team and Alpha STARS were killed in the forest last night. Kushina gasped while Naruto's eyes widened at the revelation Rebecca was the only survivor of Bravo team last night, Chris, Barry, Jill and Brad were the only survivors of Alpha. Wesker is dead as well. Minato I'm so sorry, Kushina said placing a hand on his arm and Naruto took notice of Minato's balled-up fists. He was obviously angry not being there. Dad I am sorry for most of your team, but I am also grateful that you didn't go. Naruto said. This is when Naruto heard the beeping of a bus and it was the bus outside his house that would take him to school. You better get going champ, Minato said, I'll see you after school. His son gave him a nod getting up from his chair pushing it in and headed for the door to go to school. When Naruto was out the door Kushina asked. What happened? Walking up the steps of the bus and the door closing behind him thanks to the bus driver pulling the lever he walked to an empty seat and upon sitting he looked out the window toward his house. He was wondering what took place within the mountains that got most of the STARS killed. Was it that cult he heard on some news report the news would theorize about? But Naruto seriously doubted it because how can a cult of people take down members of STARS? That consisted of ex-military individuals. So a cult killing members of STARS he wasn't going to believe. As Naruto sat in his seat on the bus it began to move driving through the neighborhood making way toward Raccoon City, its destination being Raccoon High. Naruto kicked himself back in his seat on the bus closing his eyes and as he was unaware that this punk called Flash, 18 years old, who was a football player of his school and was the quarterback of his team. Like every and most assholes of today that don't show any character he was intending on picking on the sleeping Naruto. Of course Flash was seated with his fellow football players around him having his girlfriend beside him having his arm over her shoulders. He asked one of his friends more like followers to hand him the football and so his follower did as told tossing him the football. Flash turned around in his seat to look down Naruto's direction and said. Watch this, he said getting chuckling from his followers and girlfriend. He threw the football toward Naruto's direction as it spun in the air making its course, but sadly to them before the football can even hit the so-called sleeping Naruto, said 15-year-old brought up his left hand, catching the football within his grasp with his eyes closed. Others who saw this gave a whoa while Flash and his followers were speechless. Naruto opened his eyes having his eye directed at them and reached into one of the side pockets of his bag, spinning out a silver pen, clicking down the top, the writing end of the pen pops out. As Naruto stares at Flash he stabs his pen into the football to pulling it out and the air in the football leaves, now the football was drained of all its air and Flash's follower now had to get that person a football, most likely he won't. Naruto looks at the follower that owned the football holding it up in the air football up and asked, was this yours? The guy was speechless as Naruto tossed him the flat football who caught it, looks like your master is going to have to buy you a new one. Meanwhile back at the Namika's residence Minato and Kushina were talking, they have been for the past 10 minutes so far. The events of what took place in the mountains. Kushina was up and slowly pacing back and forth listening to the story as Minato told it while sitting in the chair. You believe that Minato? Kushina asked. Chris wouldn't lie like this Kushina, Minato said. Minato, I find it hard to believe that Chris had an encounter with the Walking Dead in a mansion that no one has heard about in the mountains turned into said zombies from a virus that sounds like something made up for some survival horror video game. Not to mention that Umbrella, which is a company that is about medicines and medical supplies that even supplies most of our hospitals around the world. Why would Umbrella, that has done so much good in the world, create some virus that could kill so many? Kushina asked. Now Kushina wasn't being a bitch or anything, but she was just skeptical about the whole story. Sounds like a biological weapon to me. Minato said, referring to the T-virus. You believe his story? Don't forget about Konoha. Kushina. Minato reminded. Konoha was a failed bioweapons attack. We were lucky that the whole thing was able to be contained and the city able to be rebuilt. Not to mention that Naruto survived. Chris's story is not just his own. Jill, Barry, Rebecca and Brad validates the same story. If this is all true, everything that the last remaining surviving members of STARS say about Umbrella, it makes me question if Umbrella had anything to do with the Konoha attack. Excuse me, Kushina asked, confused. When we were about to move in to retake Konoha aiming to save survivors and the city itself, Umbrella was there to help in an instant. I remember as we were moving and taking everything back, I saw a group of UBCS observing. As if they were gathering information. Like watching an experiment unfolds, and as if they were jotting down results. So you're theorizing that the Konoha attack was a conspiracy planned by the Umbrella Corporation, simply using Konoha itself as a testing bed? Kushina asked. What exactly would they have been testing? Small traces of viral infection were detected in the city. Kushina. Intel said that it was of course bred by a group of unknown individuals, and it was spread through the air. The viral weapon was a failure though. It was some sort of prototype, the virus. Minato said. So what are you going to do? Naruto is now seen in the cafeteria of his school with a blue tray having a cartoon of juice, a small plastic container having pieces of apples, and having waffles with half of it gone, and was playing a game on his cell phone. He was playing Tetris as he moved his finger across the touchscreen of his phone, aiming to get the new high score. His phone was actually pretty cool and advanced, seeing as it was a phone from his home city that was Konoha. It was actually a phone that was not in the United States yet, as it was only exclusive within Japan. Of course anyone from the States can get one as well, but that would only be by ordering one through internet and paying for shipping and handling. This smartphone was called the Neo Galaxy X and an upfront buy was $200. When the bell rang, it signaled to all of the students that it was time to go to first period class, and so Naruto went to class so that he can get this day of school over with. As Naruto was at school and the day progressed and Kushina having gone to work, Minato was at home in his office, along with Chris who sat opposite of him. Wesker mentioned my son? Minato asked. Yeah, right before he released that BOW that killed him and nearly killed us, Chris said. What did he say? He mentioned the Konoha attack. He said that it was Umbrella's own doing to test a prototype version of the T-virus. Prototype version? Yeah, and he even said that your son was involved in some sort of experiment casted on him by the terrorists, and the terrorists, Minato, were none other than Umbrella scientists. 5 days of experimentation on him with the prototype T. Prototype T, you mean the prototype version of the T-virus? Minato asked. That's exactly it. So my son carries a virus within him. Well, seeing as he isn't like those zombies that we encountered in the mansion, the prototype T seems to have bonded with him. He should have turned into a zombie within Umbrella's hands at the time, but he didn't. In other words, your son is very lucky to be human still. He even called your son Subject 9. Could this prototype T be another reason behind his amnesia? Subject 9? Minato wondered. Wesker planned on betraying Umbrella to pursue his own interests, and he even told us that he wanted your son, mainly for the prototype T within him. Well, he's dead, right? Minato asked. Even if Wesker were alive and came after Naruto, there was no way he was going to let the man lay one finger on his son. Yeah, he's dead. Chris confirmed, that's what he thinks. Finally, with the bell ringing at 4, Naruto as well as his other classmates exit from their final class of the day so as to either get on a bus, get a ride, take their own or be picked up to go home. As Naruto was walking out of the school, arriving into the parking lot, he saw a Flash coming up and blocking his path, with Naruto himself stopping in his tracks, looking at the football jock with an annoyed look. Hey foreigner, you owe my friend a football, he said louder than he should as he approached Naruto. It was starting to attract attention, and Naruto wasn't surprised. Flash wanted to get a show to make himself look like a badass, when in truth he was nothing but a common bully and the real loser. Any bully that picks on one that is smaller and weaker than him is nothing but a loser and the real weakling. In Naruto's case, he didn't hate bullies but pitied them, and Flash was one of them. If you were ever pushed on by a bully, to fight that person, be the real winner and better man by just simply walking away. Don't listen no matter what words they use to taunt you with afterward have to get a rise out of you because it's what they want, and not giving them what they want will make them upset. Be the better individual and walk away, because if you do, then you are the real winner. Naruto looked over his shoulder to see Flash's other friends around making a ring, so as Naruto will not get away, last time I checked if it weren't for your kindergarten behavior, then said football would not be flat in the first place, it is you who owes Flash. Naruto said and took notice of a gathering crowd of students. That is not how it works, Jap, if you don't fork over say that fancy phone of yours to make up for it, then maybe I won't have to hurt you. Flash threatened. Oh, and who gets my phone? Your follower or you keep it for yourself in the end? Naruto asked, not intimidated by Flash or his friends in the least. What's it going to be, Jap? Easy way or the hard way? I don't want to hurt you, Flash, Naruto said, getting laughs from Flash's surrounding followers. You hurt me? Flash asked, chuckling afterwards. Look, I may have heard that you know how to fight and all, but as far as I am concerned, I am not worried in the least. Funny, Naruto said. What? Flash asked. The other two were just like you, Flash, and it didn't end the way they hoped. You going to hand over the phone or am I going to have to take it? No, Naruto answered. Flash only chuckled while taking off his football jacket and tossing it to one of his followers. A crowd of students began circling, repeating the word fight like a bunch of kindergartners acting immature. Seriously, is this how young adults act? Like 5 to 10-year-old children? Your funeral, Jap, Flash said as he brought up his fists, walking up to him and stopping 5 feet from him. Naruto didn't even bring a fist up. Come on. Fight. Flash, I am warning you right now, if you engage me in the sequence of combat I will use self-defense and it will only end in your defeat and embarrassment. Naruto reasoned, but of course like every bully Flash didn't listen. Last chance. Naruto warned. Shut the fuck up and fight already. Well, I tried, reason, Naruto said. Flash threw the first punch only for Naruto to effortlessly dodge the punch, moving his head to the right, dodging Flash's right fist. Flash threw a left punch, but Naruto dodged that like it were nothing. In fact, every punch he was throwing Naruto never broke eye contact with him. What's the gain out of this, Flash? Naruto asked, and Flash threw a right swing only for Naruto to catch within his left hand. Respect? Reputation? Satisfaction? Or are you just simply an asshole? Flash grunts in anger, ripping his right fist out of Naruto's left hand's grasp and starts throwing more punches, only Naruto was blocking all of them with his forearms, bringing one up after the other, blocking all of Flash's attacks, as well as dodging and sidestepping some others effortlessly. All the while the crowd was stunned and put at awe because Flash was seen as the toughest kid in the school of Raccoon, and here Naruto, who was the new guy, was making Flash look like an idiot. After throwing more than a dozen punches, or to Naruto's count more than 20, Flash went for Naruto's ears, intending to bang the sides of both his fists into them in order to numb Naruto out. However, Naruto, obviously being the one with more skill, saw this as an idiotic move and saw his opening. He quickly brought up both his arms, pushing Flash's arms back and away with his own, making Flash's chest wide open. This is when Naruto delivered a right palm thrust into Flash's chest, making the bully fly back off his feet and hit the cement ground that was the parking lot, which had to hurt. Everyone that saw this was of course at awe, seeing Flash on the ground. Are we done? Naruto asked as he was simply standing. Come on, Flash, get up. One of his followers said. Pick his ass. Another said. This is the part when someone, being one of Flash's followers, goes too far as he reaches in his pocket and pulls out a switchblade. Seriously, a blade. The follower runs at Naruto from behind, but Naruto, trusting his senses, quickly turns around to see the attacker and the weapon in hand, who slashes at him only for Naruto lean his head back, but the end of the blade managed to cut the skin right above his right eye. Everyone seeing this obviously knew that this was not right, dangerous, and most of all. Are you crazy? Naruto yelled, and even Flash saw, and even though he wouldn't say it out loud, was going too far. Seriously, the guy could have seriously injured Naruto. Dude, put the blade down. One of the followers of Flash reasoned, seeing the situation. It was here that Naruto, seeing his attacker looking at said individual that tried reasoning with him, saw the opening and moved in, quickly grabbing his attacker's wrist and slapping the knife out of his attacker's hands as it went hitting on the black concrete. Seeing as he was disarmed, Naruto's attacker attacks using his fists only for the 16-year-old to duck under it to swiping with his right leg, or more like tripping, making the attacker fall sideways, and then Naruto brings up his left knee into the attacker's gut, making him spite up. The attacker atop Naruto's stomach as he slid off, hitting the cement while having his arms around his stomach. This is when Naruto heard someone yell out, "Campus security," and true, here came 4 of them while students walked away not wanting to get in trouble. Here is how the results went down, all of Flash's followers with the attacker having the blade cuffed, and Naruto himself, who was only defending himself, was in the office with surrounding campus security. Footage from cameras set up around the school was being viewed, and Naruto was not worried about being the bad guy here because he was simply defending himself. That is when Naruto looked to his right and opening the door he saw Minato, his father. His old man did not look too pleased with him. Naruto tried to talk. Dad. That was all Naruto was going to get out but was cut off when Minato brought up his hand telling him to basically shut up. Why is he upset with me? I didn't do anything wrong. A couple of minutes later Naruto and Minato are in the principal's office sitting across from said principal. Mr. Namikaze, I am sorry to have taken you away from any business you were attending to, the principal said. It's my week off, Minato said. My sympathies to what happened to your team. Thank you, Minato said, and of course all of Raccoon knew about it because it was in the paper except anything about a mansion, virus, zombies, BOWs and umbrella behind it all. Your son was involved in a fight recently. Minato looked to Naruto and said another one. He then took notice of the dried blood that should have been from a source being a cut, but Minato saw no such thing. Where is the cut? That's strange. Mr. Namikaze. My son has been in 2 other fights with other students of this school, but they were completely off campus, self-defense. Minato explained. Well, you see, he was involved in a fight with a student, Flash. Hey, I tried reasoning with him, but he wouldn't back off, Naruto said, defending himself. After I put him down to the ground I intended to stop right there, but next thing I know one of his followers pulls out a knife and tries to kill me. A knife? Minato said, looking to the principal. Yes, footage from out cameras shows that it was the student John Eclipse's. He is one for getting in trouble, and he indeed pulled out a knife, the principal said as he opened his drawer, revealing to Minato the weapon that was in a plastic bag and letting Minato see it, seeing as he was a cop. The Bravo member of STARS held the bagged weapon in one hand looking at it and then held it up looking back at the principal and asked, how does someone get a blade in school? Well, you must understand, Mr. Namikaze, that we can't have campus security searching everyone, students need to get to class and can't afford to be late. Right, Minato said as he gave the bagged weapon back to the principal, so what is to be done? Well, seeing as fighting is not allowed at this school, your son will be suspended for a week. Suspended? Naruto said, why should I get suspended? I wasn't the one that started that fight. I was defending myself. Yes, you were, Naruto, and I understand that, you're a good student, but the point is that you still fought. The principal said. So what was I supposed to do? Let myself get beat up and get stabbed? You could have walked away, Minato said, silencing his son who didn't say a word, seeing as it was true. If Naruto had walked away then none of this would be happening to him. Flash and his friends will be receiving the same treatment, all except John as he's going to juvie. The principal said. A week of suspension, Minato said, you're going to be working your ass off when you get home, Naruto. Naruto had a feeling that his father was going to keep up with his promise of punishment. At the same time was when Police Chief Brian Irons disbanded STARS being on Umbrella's peril and replaced them with SWAT. Back within Minato's office at home. This is bullshit. Chris yelled. Calm down, Chris, Minato said. Calm down. Minato, he disbanded the team. He is obviously dirty. He's on Umbrella's peril. Chris said as Minato did believe him, seeing as the surviving members of STARS returned from the mountains, reported their story on Umbrella, and requested a full investigation on the company's activities, and Irons denying the investigation to disbanding STARS was a big giveaway. I'm going to put a stop to this, not just me, but also Jill and the others. He then looked to Minato. I'd like you to help us, Minato. I can't just leave without an explanation, Chris. If Umbrella's really is how dangerous you say, then I have to stay here and protect my family. Minato said. If Wesker knows of my son being the subject 9, then Umbrella knows as well. You're right, sorry about that. Where do you plan to start with these anti-Umbrella activities, Chris? Minato asked. Europe. September 22, 1998, Incineration Disposal Plant P12A. Hunk, otherwise known as Mr. Death or Human Unit Never Killed, was waiting for Delta team known as Wolfpack that were part of the Umbrella Security Service, USS. Wolfpack was the new Delta team replacing the previous team that was wiped out aboard the Ecliptic Express by leeches. This new team was highly trained and greatly equipped in weaponry and equipment. Hunk knew of all the members of Wolfpack having pulled each of their files days ago. Karina Lesbrew, codenamed Lupo, was the team leader of Wolfpack and the assault of the squad. She was an experienced vet that had retired from the French Special Forces. She was married once before and has children, but she killed her spouse after he got violent, who was a violent man to begin with. He went too far when he started to abuse their children. She is now part of Umbrella's USS Delta team, being their leader, and serves as an expert in assault tactics and weapons use. The leadership style sustains an emotional bond between her and the rest of Wolfpack, leading them to affectionately call her Wolf Mother. Vector was the only one in Wolfpack whose identity is classified, although Hunk knows who he is, seeing as how he trained him in the field of martial arts. It wasn't just Hunk, but also several Japanese masters, and the man is amazing in knife combat. If there was one thing you wanted to know, then the only thing that can be said was his nationality was Asian Japanese. Vector was the recon of the unit, and his uniform is heavily customized both in technology and appearance. The suit has such unique features that have a built-in active camouflage, enabling him to be able to become invisible for a limited amount of time, as well as mimic another person's appearance. Michaela Schneider, codenamed Bertha, was the medic of the team and with a keen interest in making the human body, operates at maximum capacity, but as effective as she is as a healer, as effective as a torturer for hire. She was also German if you wanted to know, and when on mission, she held a special gun that fired special darts that could increase one's speed or strength as well as heal. Vladimir Bodrovsky, codenamed Spectre, and was German with great sharpshooting capability. He was of the previous Soviet Union security services and was well suited as an intelligence technician. He had to flee from Russia seeing as he exploited his underworld network for his own gain, mainly in blackmail that brought him into contact with authorities. The USS grew interested and made him a part of Wolfpack for his surveillance skills, keeping the corporation well informed and the team having the upper hand in combat situations. Christine Yamada, codenamed Four Eyes, and was like Naruto being Japanese-American, she was the field scientist of the team, having been dedicated to science since she was a child, and she loved virology. Her knowledge in the field of virology was uncompelled, and it is what caught Umbrella's interest, and so they made her part of Wolfpack. Vector Hivers, codenamed Beltway, is the heavily built member of the team and the expert in explosive weapons wearing heavy armor, and was one that had a prosthesis left leg, a demolitions expert. He was originally from Puerto Rico, and the irresistible lure of military-grade explosives saw him join the army and channel his tendencies into a career. He did not learn restraint and as a result was dishonorably discharged. Hunk was about to meet the 5 newbies with him already knowing one of them, and it had not been long since he contacted them. Hunk was heading down an elevator waiting for it to stop on the appropriate floor when he suddenly heard over communications from Lupo contacting him. "Alpha Leader, we are in position," she informed. "Copy, stand by," Hunk said as he draws his knife that was within his left hand's grasp. The elevator reaches its destination, and when the doors open he sees 2 UBCS operatives that were most likely bought out by Dr. William Birkin. Hunk moves with quickness as he jabs his left elbow into the side of the neck of the UBCS to his left. The noise caught the attention of the one to his right and so quickly stabs his blade into his chest, killing the mercenary instantly. Hunk then grabs the neck of the last remaining UBCS operative and twisted his neck, killing him, to letting the body fall to the ground, to grabbing his knife, putting it away. Hunk then walked to the large door and inputted a code and the large door parts open, revealing all of Wolfpack standing there waiting for him. "You guys must be the new Delta team, report. I am Bertha, ready to play. Call me Four Eyes, at your service. Name's Beltway, nice to meet you Mr. Death. Vector here, good to see you again sir. The name's Spectre, let's get to it yeah. I am Lupo, Delta Team Squad Leader. Command, I have rendezvoused with Delta Team," Hunk informed over communications. "Understood. Now get down there, find Birkin and retrieve those samples, failure isn't an option." "Understood," Hunk said and motioned with his gun to the team to go into the elevator. "Let's go." As they were heading down the elevator that would lead to a lab underground, Hunk began to brief the team. "We're entering the lab of Dr. William Birkin, an Umbrella scientist working on new virus strain that he plans on selling to the United States government." "Don't you mean Umbrella's T-virus, sir?" Vector asked. "No, this virus is a more powerful and dangerous strain called the G-virus, and Umbrella wants it. There is a detachment of Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service on site ready to protect Birkin at all costs. They considered expendable, so shoot to kill. Are we not on same team? Can't we just pick up the phone and give them a call? The UBCS are nothing but mercenaries, they can bot. We can't trust them. The mission is to intercept Birkin and retrieve the G-virus. We are not the only ones going in, as Alpha Team is en route as well. Lock and load, kill anyone that gets in our way." The elevator doors part open and Hunk leading Wolfpack head to the doors that would allow them entry into Birkin's lab. As they were heading toward the doors, light switched on revealing a desk and the word Umbrella mounted on the wall with its insignia with it. A female voice welcoming them. "Welcome to Umbrella. Form up," Hunk ordered. Wolfpack did so at the door. Hunk and Vector went on one side of the door, mainly having the pad for Hunk to input the code that allows them to get in. Bertha and Lupo were on the other side of the door, while Beltway and Four Eyes stood before it aiming their machine guns. Hunk then stood and entered the code with a beep following after each numbered button he pressed, and the doors then parted open. "Let's move." Hunk and Vector entered first, followed closely behind by Lupo and Bertha. Beltway and Four Eyes followed soon after on their tail. Wolfpack lead by Hunk as they aimed their weapons in different directions, covering one another while entering the lab. As they did, however, they came across upon tanks containing what looked to be bioorganic weapons, or for short BOWs, and most of them in the tanks were hunters. They observed for a bit, looking upon the hunters with one of them wondering how they were in combat. However, they didn't have time to observe as UBCS forces got the surprise drop on them, throwing a flashbang that Wolfpack heard hitting the floor downstairs. Flashbang. Bertha said aloud to everyone. Wolfpack and Hunk ducked down near the railing that had a small wall below the railing as a shield. They managed to get down behind it just in time as the flashbang went off, the light flashing over their heads. When the flashbang's effects wore off, Hunk immediately gave out a single order to the ducked Wolfpack. Kill them. At the same time, Hunk and all of Wolfpack stood aiming their machine guns upon the UBCS below, unloading bullets. Their gunfire upon the UBCS managed to hit 2 of them, being fatal kills, taking multiple shoots in the chest, while the rest jumped behind cover. They were not the only ones having a firefight, but so was Hunk's alpha team, as they can hear the echo of gunfire. Vector, who was next to Hunk, took cover reloading his weapon. Hunk took cover as well and noticed how Vector put away his weapon, ringing it behind his back to drawing his blade. Vector then popped his neck. Going incognito? Hunk asked as he reloaded his weapon while lazily tossing a grenade over and to the UBCS below that blows up, killing a single UBCS who tried running for another part of cover. In a matter of speaking, sir, Vector said. Right before Hunk's eyes, Vector seemed to light up and light blue for a mere second, and then from bottom to top he turned transparent, going invisible. As Wolfpack was engaging the remaining UBCS below who were holding them back, there were 5 left in fact. However, as the UBCS are firing up upon Hunk and Wolfpack, one of them ducks behind his cover reloading his weapon but didn't take notice of Vector at all, who stepped up behind him. The UBCS operative turned, revealing himself over cover, taking aim, but then suddenly he felt someone's arm wrap around his neck and grabbed the side of his rifle. The gun within his grasp was forcibly pointed up in the air, making him fire up into the air, grabbing the attention of the other remaining 4 UBCS operatives. Vector made a subdued enemy point in their direction, shooting them instead, and the shots were not fatal or serious, but shots to their legs or their arm. Vector finished with this operative cuts the operative's neck, spilling his blood, but as Vector did this, it caused a slight malfunction in his cloaking technology, making him visible for a mere second. Seeing this, the 4 wounded UBCS operatives aimed their weapons and opened fire upon Vector, who used the dead mercenary's body as a meat shield. He used the meat shield for 5 more seconds before throwing him aside and makes a run for it, with their bullets being wasted as they couldn't see him. That's when the wounded UBCS operative saw a grenade hit the floor, landing between them, and the next thing that happened was an explosion, killing them due to the close proximity. Hunk and Wolfpack stood tall, seeing as how Beltway's thrown grenade was the kill, and then appearing out of his invisibility was Vector walking up to the group. "Let's move," Hunk ordered. Hunk and Wolfpack proceeded down the stairs to the bottom floor, and upon arriving, large double doors parted open and more UBCS mercenaries emerged. There were many places here to take cover, such as tables that were pushed over, metal support beams and tanks, which didn't hold any BOWs. It was here that Hunk ordered Wolfpack to split up and take for cover so that they can finish these mercenaries quickly. Beltway ran around a corner only to meet face first with a UBCS operative that had his pistol aimed and unloaded all rounds into his chest, which was bulletproof by the way. After all the shoots of his pistol were released, he went to reloading his gun, but Beltway, who didn't fall back from the shots, reached over his back grabbing a shotgun, took aim and unloaded a single shot, launching the UBCS operative through the air to falling on the floor. Vector spun around while crouching down upon a single knee, firing a single shot from his rifle into the head of a UBCS operative that tried taking advantage of his turned back. Another revealed himself from behind cover from behind Vector, who stood up and reached down to his belt with his right hand, pulling out what looked to be silver shuriken with curved blades. He then threw it toward the direction of the other UBCS. Without looking, while pointing his rifle in another direction, firing upon the third UBCS, his bullets killing the operative and the shuriken nailing into the other's neck, killing him at the same time. Spectre took notice of more UBCS operatives that were emerging upon a catwalk further up ahead, so with his sniper rifle, he took aim and fired the first shoot with deadly precision. It hit one of them in the head, and then he quickly aimed for the next, shooting him as well and killing him. The operatives upon the catwalk took cover, and Spectre couldn't get a shot off, but with his goggles, they zoomed in upon a couple of tanks that if shot would explode. Seeing the opportunity, Spectre took aim and unleashed a single shot, with the result being an explosion, causing the catwalk to collapse. He took notice of Hunk, who ducked under a blade that was swung at him from behind, to which Hunk turned around too and kicked the operative away in the chest. Spectre then delivered a headshot to that operative, killing him instantly. He then took notice of an operative to his left who took aim with his machine gun, and so the German rolled along the ground away, avoiding gunfire, to when rolling upon his back, fired a single shot from his sniper rifle into the UBCS's chest. Bertha was one that loves her long blade. As she came from around the corner of a metal support beam, a UBCS operative was taking cover behind and swung her blade into the operative's neck. The result of such an attack in this certain area was gruesome as the operative's head was removed from his shoulders. She then quickly turned, hearing another UPCS operative swing his blade at her from behind, just in time repelling his knife away with her larger blade to delivering a kick to the operative's gut, making him hunch over. Bertha then wrapped an arm around his neck, lifting his head up violently, making it break, killing the operative, and releases him, letting the dead corpse drop to the ground. She then threw her blade into the chest of another UPCS operative that approached from up ahead of her and another one coming toward her from further ahead. She rolled on the floor toward the mercenary that had her blade stabbed in his chest, who fell to his knees while she avoided the gunfire of the mercenary further up ahead. When she rolled back upon her feet, she grabs her blade while drawing her sidearm and took aim over the dead mercenary's shoulder, firing shoots upon the other ahead of her, killing him. After she killed him, Bertha pulled her blade out of the corpse, putting it away. Lupo, who was not far off, suddenly aimed her rifle toward her and fired off a single shot, and Bertha looked over her shoulder, seeing a UBCS operative shot in the head, and falls back dead. "Thanks," Bertha said aloud. "Watch your back," Lupo said, and then swung her rifle to her right, smacking a UBCS operative across the face to bringing her foot up and slamming it down upon his head. Poor Eyes, who was behind cover, unclipped 2 flashbangs and threw them to 6 UBCS operatives that were coming her way, blinding them. What she did next was come out of her cover and with careful shoots while walking toward them, she fired a single shot or two into each of their heads, killing them instantly. Hunk rolls from around cover, intercepting the path of a UBCS operative with blade in hand and slashed his blade up and slashing across the mercenary's neck, killing him. Hunk stood catching the body and pushed forward as a UBCS operative was firing upon Hunk's meat shield, who was getting closer and closer to him, Hunk peeking around the body. When Hunk was close enough, as well as seeing the mercenary reloading his gun, to which Hunk saw as idiotic, seeing as he should have reached for his sidearm. Hunk then flipped the dead body up and over him to stabbing his blade up into the UBCS operative's gut and was now face to face with him. The two stare for a mere second before Hunk pulls his blade out, walking away. The dead mercenary falling to the ground dead. Back to Vector, the invisible man slides over a table while aiming his pistol toward 3 UBCS operatives. He fires off 3 shots at the same time with his cloaking dropping, each shot hitting them in the head. It was now quiet in the room as bodies of the UBCS littered the floor and the Wolfpack lead by Hunk still standing and reload. "Hunk. Command contacted over communications. We just got a location on Birkin. He is in his lab. Get in there and retrieve the virus." "Understood, Command." "You heard the man, let's move," Hunk said aloud as he and Wolfpack proceeded through 2 large parted open doors and were now going down a hall. As they were, Hunk signaled Vector to move ahead. Go. Vector increased his speed, running around and past Hunk, activating his camouflage at the same time. Further ahead of Wolfpack and Hunk were 4 UBCS operatives that rounded the hall corner and they take up positions. They see Wolfpack and Hunk ahead round the corner and the UBCS operative in front takes aim, but then appearing out of nowhere before him was Vector. The man stabbing his blade into the UBCS operative's heart, catching him and the other UBCSs off guard. Vector backs away with the body, using it as a shield as the remaining 3 UBCS operatives fire upon Vector's meat shield. Vector succeeds backing away around a corner that lead down another hall, which upon looking down, he saw a blast door close off. Wolfpack and Hunk approach down the hall, firing their weapons upon the remaining 3 UBCS operatives who take cover behind the hall's only corner. Meanwhile, with the good Dr. Birkin takes his attention away from looking through the scope of his G-virus, hearing the continued echoing of gunfire between the mercenaries he bought, Alpha and Delta teams. He could hear them getting closer, but he didn't seem to care as he went back to work upon his G-virus. He had no intention letting them take his G-virus. Wolfpack lead by Hunk were in a new room and it looked like one where researchers would go to relax, as well as the UBCS that were stationed down here in this lab. There was already a firefight between Wolfpack and Hunk against UBCS operatives within the room. Vector was taking advantage of another perk of his suit, mimicking one of the UBCS, as one of them ducked back behind the couch next to another that was just sitting there. "I'm out. Can you pass me a mag?" the UBCS operative asked his fellow mercenary. "Sure," the second UBCS said as he lazily handed him a mag. The UBCS operative took the mag and puts it in his rifle, but it wouldn't go in. He looked at it, seeing that it wasn't the right magazine for his rifle. "Hey, what are you trying to?" He didn't get to finish asking his question as the UBCS operative swished out his knife and stabs it into the mercenary's neck to pulling it out, making blood gush out. It was in fact Vector who brought his knife before him, putting his thumb and pointer finger upon the blunt sides of his knife, swiping the blood off. At the same time doing this action, his mimicking capability wears off and he says, "Never trust a merc," Vector said, even though he wasn't one. All of the UBCS operatives within this room were dealt with and now it was a clear stretch to Birkin. At the same time gunfire stops from within another part of the lab, signaling Alpha Team has taken care of their own fair share. Wolfpack and Hunk proceed past two large metal doors that part open going down a hall and soon came crossing through a lab. Upon exiting out of that lab that was meant for other researchers under Birkin's watchful eye and soon came exiting out of that lab, coming upon a closed-off lab door. Upon the door it said William Birkin and waiting were three operatives of Alpha Team which Hunk leads. It's magnificent, sheer perfection. My precious G-Virus, no one will ever take you away from me. Dr. Birkin's voice said behind the door. Hunk turned to Wolfpack. Guard this door at all costs, do not let anyone approach. Hunk said. Who's going to? Beltway asked seeing as no one was coming since all of the UBCS down here was killed off by Wolfpack and Alpha Team. You come with me. Hunk said to one of his Alpha Team operatives. The two approaches the door with it parting open with the door going up, the two proceed inside the lab as the doors close off behind them. There he is, the Alpha USS operative said. So you have finally come. Birkin said as he looked over his shoulder toward them. Doctor, just hand over the G-Virus. Hunk asked. Sorry, but there is no way I am going to let you or Umbrella steal my life's work. It seemed that the USS operative by Hunk's side got a little overexcited and pulled the trigger of his weapon, hailing bullets into Birkin, who was wriling aloud in pain. Hunk put a stop to the fire as quickly as he could, but if you were thinking that it was for the doctor's sake, then you were wrong. Stop it. You'll hit the samples. Hunk walked over to the doctor's counter seeing the case with samples of not just the G-Virus, but also that of the T-Virus. He took notice of the doctor lying against the counter with bullet holes in his bodies and his blood staining the area with a pool of blood forming. Birkin could have just surrendered the virus and perhaps he would have lived. Then again if the USS operative within the room with his didn't get overexcited he wouldn't be dead. Nonetheless he looked upon the case seeing all the samples of the G and T virus within and closed the case. Okay, this is everything, let's go. Hunk said bringing the case under his arm. Hunk along with Alpha and Delta, Wolfpack, leave the area heading for an elevator that they take up. While upon the elevator that was taking those up Hunk contacted their pickup that was waiting for them. Goblin 6, what's your status? All the upper levels are secured sir, waiting on you. Roger that. Meanwhile with Dr. Birkin he was still alive as his wife came to him and was scared seeing the condition of her husband. He did this whole time have a sample of the G-Virus within his hands. Once his wife left to go and find help for him, he reached to grabs a syringe gun and loads the G-Virus within. He then stabs the needle in his arm pulling the trigger injecting himself with his own created G-Virus. Once he did he let his arms fall and then bringing up his head his eyes changed no longer human. He then began to mutate as were the effects of the G-Virus and upon completion he gave out a loud roar of rage that would be heard throughout his underground facility. Upon the surface within his small neighborhood Naruto shot up from his bed. He had sweat going down his face from the dreams he was having being very disturbing and very questionable. Basically they were nightmares. Nightmares of seeing flashes of what he thought were needles, bright lights above him in the dream, as well as seeing what he thought were people dressed like doctors when in a surgery room. He sat himself upon his bed and looked over his shoulder out his window, seeing it was still late in the night to looking to his clock upon his nightstand saying 2 a.m. Naruto stood up exiting out his upstairs room door to going to the bathroom, turning on its lights to turning on the faucet. Naruto cups his hands under the water to splashing it upon his face. He decided to wet his hair with letting his head hang over the sink afterwards as drops of water descend inside the sink. What the hell were these nightmares that Naruto was having all the time? Yes, he has had the same nightmare multiple times but not all the time. When this particular nightmare came about his whole body would hurt afterwards every time. What did these dreams mean and why did they cause him pain and give him fear? He opened the cabinet before him that had a mirror upon it, showing a box of pills called prazosin, and this medication has shown to be effective in treating severe nightmares in children and people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, symptoms. He grabs the box looking upon it having already taken some before he went to sleep and was wondering what the hell was going on. He was going to have a hard time sleeping now or maybe not go to sleep at all. Why aren't they working? He tossed the box of medication into the cabinet to closing it looking upon the mirror once again and turned his body reflecting his bare right arm in the mirror. Upon his arm a part of his skin looked to be a number and it said 9. What it means Naruto had no idea but it must have some significance. He turned off the water to grabbing a towel drying his face and hair to leaving his bathroom turning off its light and closing its door. Upon walking back into his room he threw himself upon the bed so that he can attempt to go back to sleep. Shoot it. Shoot it. One of the Alpha team members said firing his machine gun upon the mutated Birkin. D. Birkin dashed toward the USS operative smacking him away ultimately killing him. All the members of Alpha team were already killed with G. Birkin walking slowly toward another one cornering him. Hunk was on the floor as well as the open case, along with broken open and spilled samples of the G&T virus. "Move it, Wolfpack," Hunk ordered. Hunk and Wolfpack made their way going through a blast door with G. Birkin turning around sighting them retreating, G. Birkin having just killed the last of Alpha Team. G. Birkin turned around running toward Four Eyes who was closing the door and did it just in time falling back as G. Birkin punched the strong door. A roar of rage following afterwards from G. Birkin. "Damn it, I lost the sample," Hunk cursed. "Then let's go back for it," Lupo said. "It's too hot with that thing running around back there." "No, we moved to the exit. Now let's go." They suddenly hear slamming against a blast door they closed off, causing all of them turn around aiming their weapons toward it while backing away. After every dent that was made by the raging G. Birkin, an angry grunt was heard at the same time. "He's that strong?" Spectre asked. "Move," Hunk said aloud, and they all turned around and began running down the hall. That is when Birkin busted through the door and wall with a roar and pipe in hand, alarms blaring aloud. Taking sight of the retreating Hunk and Wolfpack, the mutated Birkin gave chase after giving out an angry snarl. Wolfpack and Hunk just ran away from G. Birkin who was chasing after them, intending to make them into dead corpses. Beltway pulled out his sidearm aiming it back at Birkin while staying on the run and pulled the trigger firing off 6 shots, with the 5th shot being the one that hits the eyes upon G. Birkin's shoulder. The result made Birkin writhe in pain, grabbing his eye while swinging its pipe about, and when they reached a door, Lupo was the one turning the metal wheel while the rest of Wolfpack and Hunk cover her. As they kept their aim upon G. Birkin, who now recovered, Lupo was still turning the wheel and G. Birkin going into a jog toward them. "Lupo?" Vector addressed. "I know," Lupo said, turning the wheel. G. Birkin was now running toward them, roaring aloud. "Lupo?" "I know." She finally got the blast door open, pushing it open, and upon doing so all of Wolfpack with Hunk moving and last got through. Beltway came assisting Lupo closing the blast door in time, as well as locking it before G. Birkin can reach it. They thought that the door would hold off G. Birkin for a while so they can get a head start, but they were surprised when he immediately breaks through, grabbing Hunk and throwing him away through the air back in the direction they came. "Shoot him," Lupo said aloud. All of Wolfpack took aim engaging G. Birkin, the bullets penetrating through the mutated Birkin's skin and into its body. They were keeping up their fire while backing away from G. Birkin at the same time. G. Birkin bringing a hand up blocking the bullets with its arm. Beltway decided to take this opportunity to throw a grenade and so puts his gun away to pulling out a grenade, pulling the pin. "Eat this," Beltway said, throwing the grenade at G. Birkin's feet, and then an explosion followed afterwards. "Move it now," Lupo said, running to the next door. The rest of Wolfpack following gets to the door and they all take up positions while reloading, but this time Beltway turning the valve to open the door. Vector, Lupo and Spectre take up positions upon one knee, aiming their rifles down toward where G. Birkin would emerge out of the smoke. Four Eyes and Bertha standing behind them aiming down the hall where they were sure G. Birkin was. Birkin emerged out of the smoke charging toward them. "Light him up," Lupo ordered. Guns went ablaze firing upon the approaching G. Birkin as Beltway continued to twist the valve on the door, blocking their escape from G. Birkin. Their firepower did not seem to stop G. Birkin as he continued walking forward, but then they remembered G. Birkin's weakness discovered by Beltway. "Its eye. Shoot its eye," Vector said aloud. Everyone did as told, firing upon the exposed eye, getting a great number of bullets penetrating it, making Birkin stagger back and cover its eye with its arm in pain. They still kept up the gunfire upon G. Birkin, but seeing as they couldn't hit its eye that was covered, Lupo gave out the order to cease fire and save ammunition. Hearing Beltway yell out he got the door open, Lupo gave the order to move, and Wolfpack did with Beltway pushing the door closed. Birkin looking forward just in time seeing the door closed and gave out a roar that did not go unheard by Wolfpack behind the closed-off door, one that Birkin wouldn't get through. "Delta team. Get a move on and regroup with Hunk." Command ordered them over communications. "He's still alive," Bertha said in a surprised tone. "I was pretty sure the way that thing threw him that was the end for him. It will take more than that to kill Hunk," Vector said as Wolfpack was on the move. "Less talking, more moving," Lupo said. When they ran through a couple of halls not running into any trouble, they came upon emerging into another long hall that led down to another door. They ran down the hall toward the door and began opening it when at the end of the hall they came down from the wall was suddenly broken through. What broke through was the enraged G. Birkin who gave a loud roar. "Doesn't he ever quit?" Four Eyes asked. G. Birkin ran down the hallway toward them with pipe held up in the air and was approaching at a greater speed. However, G. Birkin's leg crossed what looked to be a red laser coming from the wall at ankle level. It was one of Beltway's trip mines that he managed to plant and it knocked Birkin off his feet to the floor. They managed to get the door open thanks to Beltway's planted bomb, the whole pack going into the next hall closing the door behind them. They then ran down the hall with all speed not looking back and they then saw ahead a door opened and exiting out of it was Hunk. "Move your asses," Hunk said aloud. When the pack reached Hunk's position they then heard the loud banging of G. Birkin trying to break through the door. Wolfpack was ready to fight G. Birkin again, but Hunk had other plans. "No. You all get out of here and make a full report to management. This place has already gone to hell, there is nothing you can do," he said as he pushed each one of them through the door he came through. "What about you, sir?" Vector asked before he exits. G. Birkin breaks through and was now walking toward them. "I lost the sample. I'm going back for it," Hunk said, pushing Vector in and closing the door. Hunk then turned facing the approaching G. Birkin, firing his weapon. Meanwhile, back with the case that held the samples of the G and T virus, rats were upon the spilled samples with them being infected by the T virus. The rats retreating into the sewers underneath Raccoon and would spread the T virus, sealing Raccoon City's fate. Within the week all of Raccoon City will become hell itself. September 23, 1998, Raccoon City apartment complex. It was a beautiful day for Raccoon City as the sky was clear and the people going about their daily business. However, some odd strange things were about to happen, such as odd disturbances of the peace. Within the home of an innocent individual, he slept within his bed with his bathroom door open. Suddenly something is heard from within the bathroom, sounding like something emerging out of water. A rat is seen crawling out of the toilet wet and it having wide eyes, which was very strange, as well as its entry. The infected rat from T-virus lands on the bathroom floor and makes its way toward the bed, wanting a bite out of the human that lay defenseless and unaware. The infected rat jumps upon the covers spread upon the bed, crawling up it. It was soon upon the bed and crawls atop the man's arm, making him spur in his sleep, and the infected rat stopping for a moment. When the man stops moving, it slowly crawls to his neck area and then it take a bite, making the man wake up immediately, cursing aloud, grabbing the rat and throwing it across the room into the wall. From the impact the rat left blood upon the wall and was now dead, seeing as the man threw it hard. He brings up a hand where he was bitten by the rat while walking to the bathroom to look upon it in the mirror. The rat seemed to have gotten a good one out of him. Raccoon City General Hospital. Ashina Namikaze right now was sitting within her office looking at some papers. She had heard of Naruto's fight with Flash yesterday and was not pleased. She was sure Minato right now had him mowing the lawn or something as punishment, or perhaps took away his iPod or maybe computer. But she was pretty sure that Minato just had him mowing the lawn, seeing as he didn't punish Naruto to extremes. What really upset her was that Naruto was suspended from school for the rest of the week starting tomorrow, Naruto's suspension having been issued 2 days ago. She honestly didn't think it was fair as her son defended herself kicking ass, and it honestly made her smile with her, claiming that he gets it from her mother, but Minato said that he would get it from him, the two of them joking around with one another. It was right now 2 in the afternoon and she was called for aid over the intercom and told where to go. When she arrived, it was odd what she saw, seeing a patient rolled in upon a hospital table. But it was the condition he was in that was very odd to her, seeing the condition of his skin. The man looked like he was already dead but was still breathing on what amount of life that he had left. "What happened?" Kushina asked. "We don't know. He was found within the park, collapsed, looking like this. His condition is worsening by the second," the doctor said. "How long has he been like this?" Kushina asked. "Almost 3 hours by our calculations." They were however too late as the man suddenly stops breathing with his eyes remaining open. Kushina checked for a pulse only to feel none at all. He was gone, calling his time of death and taking him to be put in a body bag to taking him down to a morgue where his corpse will be stored. "What's going on today?" "That's the 4th one." Minato was watching Naruto, who was mowing the lawn, overseeing his punishment. Minato kicked back, leaning into a chair with soda in hand and a small radio set up from which he would listen to music as well as news if any came up. As he continued to watch while taking a sip of his soda every so often while within his own thoughts. He realized ever since Chris informed him that Police Chief Irons disbanded STARS that he was out of a job. His wife already knew this information, telling her of the disbandment of STARS, but not the suspicious reasons why. Minato was sure that he can go back to the station and would get another job, perhaps as a local cop, or perhaps the police chief would throw him into the SWAT, seeing as he was, to their eyes, not aware of the mansion incident. However, he couldn't help but think that perhaps as he thinks to himself that he and Naruto were being watched by Umbrella. Mainly because of Naruto, seeing as Wesker was working for Umbrella, revealing the information of Subject 9 being his own son, meaning all this time Umbrella knew this. Even right now Minato was looking around the neighborhood they lived in with his eyes, thinking that perhaps he will find someone watching Naruto. However, Minato didn't see no such thing right now. Another question on their mind was if they knew Naruto as Subject 9, which was of course a title of importance to Umbrella, then why haven't all this time they never came for Naruto? He knew that his son apparently all this time has a virus flowing through him ever since that attack called the Prototype T. What did this Prototype T do to Naruto and how does it affect him? From what he can tell, Naruto looked healthy and strong, nothing seemed to be wrong at all. His thoughts then went back to that day when he was in the principal's office, seeing the dry blood upon his son's cheek, but no cut present. Is it possible that this prototype T has given Naruto some sort of supernatural healing factor? Minato wondered. That sounds like something you would see in the movies or read in one of Naruto's manga, especially being that ninja one. He said. Minato calls Naruto and telling him that his punishment was over and that he can come back inside and experience freedom once again. Naruto walks past his father giving out a sarcastic laugh and Minato chuckling afterwards. The man stops as he sights one of his neighbors seeing him walking up to his front door, but the man was going at a slow pace with his skin not looking so good. The man looked like he was dying as he reaches for the knob of his front door grabbing and started turning it. Mr. Matthews? Are you okay? Minato asked aloud. The man identified as Mr. Matthews simply ignored him going into his house and the door closing behind him. This was strange to Minato seeing the man in such a condition as he saw the man leave this morning and he was fine when Minato last saw him, but look at him now. What happened to him? Minato went back inside his own house to walking to the kitchen so that he peeks out the window through its blinds to his neighbor's house. But in the kitchen with Minato was Naruto who just took a drink out of the fridge called Regain and if you looked on the front of it looked to be one of Naruto's favorite video game characters. It was Solid Snake and next to him was the title Metal Gear Solid with the baddest spy holding the drink. Metal Gear, Naruto said with a smile and single nod. He even saw that awesome pistol Snake in the picture was holding being the semi-automatic Heckler and Koch Mark 23 or for short the HKMK.23, but it looked different having both flashlight and laser sighting. Such a cool gun in my opinion that the Navy uses. Naruto thought and then he took notice of his dad peeking through the blinds of his kitchen window. Dad, what are you doing? Spying, Minato said without shame. Spying? On Mr. Matthews? Yup. Okay. Have fun with that. You didn't see him? Minato asked. No. He looked like he was dead. Like a zombie? Naruto asked. Zombie, Minato thought remembering Chris's story of what happened in the mansion. I'm going up into my room. Is my supposed torture over? You have fun with that, kid. Minato said to his son no longer paying attention and makes his way to his room. What's with him? Naruto wondered watching his father go to his and his mother's room. Minato entered his room and walked to the chest that held his gear and took a knee. He brought out a key from his pocket inserting it within its lock twisting it and unlocking it. He then lifted the top half of the chest and inside were weapons being his STARS pistol, an HKMK.23 which was a gun his son liked but wasn't going to give or let use anytime soon, his sword that was within its metal sheath with its sheathed blade, sword similar in look of Raiden's sword in Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. There was also a belt inside that would hold ammunition for his guns, along with elbow pads for protection. He grabs his STARS pistol checking to see if it was loaded with ammunition and seeing that it was he cocked and locked the weapon now ready to be fired. He took out a holster that went on the right side of his thigh and put his weapon away inside of it. It wasn't hard to figure out what Minato was going to do. The man walks out the front door of his house closing it behind him and makes his way across the grass to his next door neighbor's porch. He comes to a stop upon the porch and notices Mr. Matthews' front door slightly open. Mr. Matthews? Minato called out to but received no answer. Minato walked up to the door and pushed the door open slowly seeing the inside. It was quiet inside and the window's blinds looked like they were all closed. He can also see items thrown upon the floor looking like there had been some sort of struggle even though Mr. Matthews was the only one inside. Minato entered the house with his right hand beside his weapon as he looked around and listened with his ears. He made his way slowly to the kitchen calling out for the home's occupant telling him that his door was open. He didn't find his neighbor anywhere downstairs and had to assume that he was upstairs. Minato made his way to and now going up the stairs with caution, his hand having a grasp of his gun. Back within the home of the Namikazes the only child Naruto was in his room at his bookshelf looking for something to read. Yes, he reads books to pass the time and he didn't just read manga if that's what you thought. As he was searching for something to read he thought he heard something move about in his room and looking over his shoulder he didn't see anything moving. He dismissed it as just hearing things and turned his head back to looking for something to read, unaware of the infected rat that crawled up and upon his bed. It got itself ready facing toward the turned Naruto, intending to leap toward Naruto and bite him. When it did leap toward him squeaking aloud, Naruto was faster as he turned around with book in hand, smacking the rat away into the wall. Naruto looked upon the rat that was twitching and walked over to it. He was now looking down upon the rat taking notice of its white dead eyes which was very strange. Never had he seen or even heard of a rat's eyes looking or being described like that. He also took notice that the rat was wet, meaning it must have been traveling through something wet. The rat looked up toward and Naruto slowly bringing his foot upon the rat's head and slowly bringing it down, crushing its head while it squealed and then was soon silenced. The infected rat's attempts of infecting Naruto and eating him were foiled. Back with Minato when he reached the second floor of the house he hears a crash coming from what looked to be the bathroom. He sees the lights flickering from within until going off completely. Minato slowly made his way to the bathroom, putting his back against the wall moving along it while drawing his handgun. He peeks around the doorway looking into the bathroom and sees Mr. Matthews turn back to him just standing there in the dark. The man's head lowered and even with looking over the man's shoulder into the mirror, he couldn't see his lowered face. "Mr. Matthews?" Minato addressed but didn't get an answer. "Your front door was open so he reached a hand placing it atop his shoulder and as soon as he did Mr. Matthews brought up his head, revealing his face in the mirror, frightening Minato. His skin looked dead and his eyes were pure white while giving out a low moan. "What the fuck?" Minato said while backing away taking aim with his gun. The now zombie Mr. Matthews slowly turned around to face Minato who still had his gun aimed. Minato didn't know whether to pull the trigger or not. Once the zombie was now facing Minato it looked upon Minato for a couple of seconds at first just standing there stare at Minato. "Mister?" The zombie then gives a loud hiss while lunging forward at Minato, intending to devour him. Minato holds up his arm blocking the zombie's neck while it had a grasp upon his shoulder. The two of them fall to the floor and were now in a struggle as Minato was holding the zombie above him back that was trying to bite him. Minato brings up a foot bringing it under the zombie's stomach and pushes the zombie off and back into the bathroom crashing. Minato quickly stands going to the bathroom door closing it and locking it from the inside. Minato then backed away taking aim with his gun at the same time and at first did not hear anything from behind the door until a second later he heard the zombie banging on the door on the other side. Why didn't the zombie just unlock the door on the other side and open it? Another thing was the whole zombie thing that came to mind and he was wondering if this was a zombie. Mr. Matthews looked like one now, but what he didn't understand was how he can be a zombie when Chris told him that only the T-virus did such. How the hell did Mr. Matthews who was now a zombie becomes infected with T-virus when and where in the first place? Back to the situation at hand the zombie behind the door hasn't opened the door. Minato had to assume that these things were not so smart seeing as the zombie can't do such a simple thing as opening a door. Minato made his way to leave the house and was not intending on coming back. Naruto was coming back down the stairs and when he arrived he took notice of his father in the kitchen just sitting there at the table quiet. "Dad?" No response. "Hello? I hear you. Something wrong?" "Naruto, I don't want you going over to Mr. Matthews or seeing him, okay?" "Okay," Naruto said. "By the way, I killed a rat up in my room." "A rat?" Minato asked as he looked to his son confused because they shouldn't have rats here in the house. At this it leaped at me from the top of my bed. Now I have to wash the covers and clean my floor of a dead rat. Minato was now upstairs in Naruto's room looking upon the dead rat Naruto killed, his son behind him grabbing the covers as he intended to get them washed. Minato right now had a pair of gloves on with a trash bag reaching down for the dead rat, picking it up by its tail. Some of its brains and pieces of head left behind on the carpet along with blood. Minato lifted it up to face level and then he smelled the stench the rat radiated smelling like it had come from a sewer and was wet. "God, that stench," Minato said. He dropped the rat within the trash bag. He then went on ahead and decided to clean the spot where the rat was killed while his son was attending to his covers. When it was all over he took sight of a trail of wet footprints within Naruto's carpet and follows the trail of where it came from. He did not expect it to lead to the bathroom here upstairs. Looking inside and flicking the light switch on he saw the wet footprints heading toward the open seat toilet as well as on its seat to walking to and looking down the toilet into its water. Did it come out of the toilet? Minato wondered. Strange things were now going about with the people of Raccoon City. Somewhere within the downtown area a team of UBCS within a black Humvee was watching upon suspicious activity. The activity from where they were can't see what looked to a homeless man in an alley, looking like he was feasting upon the man. "Command, we are seeing some suspicious activity here in the downtown area," a UBCS within the truck informed. "Understood, continue to observe." They then heard what sounded like the sirens of the police approaching and upon appearing they came to a stop and 4 cops emerging out the 2 vehicles, 2 cops having been in each vehicle. They were responding to a call from a civilian that saw the cannibalism crime. The 4 cops took out their handguns and slowly approached down the alley to the man eating the other, which freaked them out. They demanded the man to stop what he was doing and to put his hands in the air. When the man heard the cops shouting commands at it, the zombie stops in its feast and looks their direction. Seeing the face of the cannibal the cops freaked thinking him as a zombie from the movies which it actually was because of a T-virus infected rat. They kept the guns aimed as the zombie stood itself up, making that moaning sound like a zombie and seeing the blood all over its mouth and shark teeth. The zombies slowly made their way toward the 4 cops, which took steps back, obviously frightened. They demanded for the man to get on the ground and put his hands upon his head, but the zombie continued on its path. When it got close enough to one of the cops, it lunged forward and managed to get a bite out of the cop's arm. The cop pushes the zombie away. Seeing as the man attacked a police officer in such a way, the other 3 cops open fire and their bullets penetrating into the body of the zombie. They stop firing as the zombie hits the ground and people running away from the area, but are shocked to see that the man rises again moaning. They reload their guns while the zombie stands itself back up, and the cop that was bitten on the ground decides to take aim with his weapon and fired off a single shot. It was the kill shot as the bullet went into the head of the zombie, instantly killing it. They all close in on the body with caution, but then they see another frightening sight, and it was the man that the zombie was eating earlier rise up, now a zombie as well. The zombie's face was half gone as well as parts of its neck and began making its way toward the 4 officers slowly. It wasn't long until they shot this zombie as well, seeing as it wanted to eat them and they couldn't figure out why. The 4 officers now had 2 bodies on the ground being zombies, but they hear a distant moan and looking ahead they see another 3rd zombie coming their way. They reload and aim their weapons upon the 3rd slow approaching zombie and fire, hitting its chest area. When they run out of bullets to fire and start to reload, but as they were, the zombie starts to writhe about suddenly and they watch as its skin turns red. It now became a crimson head and with increased speed ran down toward the 4 cops, hissing aloud, hungry for their flesh. The 4 officers fire their guns upon the approaching crimson head. Their bullets don't hit its head as it fast approaches. By the time they have reloaded, the crimson head was already upon them and it slashes its sharpened nails, slicing a cop through the neck, making blood gush out. It then lunges itself at another cop, biting his arm, making him scream aloud in pain, and then rip the piece of meat out of the cop's arm. One of the cops fires upon the crimson head's back until it was empty, but it didn't seem to have an effect as it turned around and attacked him, now biting his neck, both of them falling to the ground. The crimson head rips its mouth and skin from the man's neck away, making him bleed out and soon would be dead. The man that was bitten first out of the group grabs the crimson head's shoulder, pulling it off the now dead cop and throwing it away to the ground. It was now only 2 cops left, being the one that was bitten first and the other bitten in the arm. The crimson head charges toward the 2 remaining cops, with the one that was bitten first aiming his gun defending the other fallen cop that was still alive. However, the cop would not get the chance to fire upon the crimson head again as the zombie is suddenly fired upon by a barrage of bullets. What was the source of this barrage of bullets? It was from 5 UBCS operatives stalking down the alley toward the crimson head with their rifles aimed and their bullets piercing the crimson head. 3 bullets hit the crimson head in the head, killing it as it falls to the ground dead. The 5 UBCS operatives reached the dead crimson head as well as looking upon the dead of cops and normal zombies. They even took notice of the cop that was bitten in the neck and knew that soon he would rise up as a zombie. The UBCS also looks upon the 2 remaining cops and see them both having suffered from bites and knew they were infected. "Command, we have neutralized the threat, 2 raccoon officers down, 2 bitten," one of the UBCS operatives said. One of them that was watching upon the dead cop that was bitten in the neck sees the now zombie bring up its head. The mercenary simply pulls out his sidearm, taking aim down upon the zombie, unleashing a single shot to the head. "Take care of the rest," Command replied back. "Roger that." Within the Raccoon City police station, 2 cops were holding down a man that was going crazy, but this man was actually a zombie. The zombie kept trying to take a bite out of one of the 2 officers holding it down. They were receiving calls of these zombies stalking within different parts of the city, but right now it was at a small level of infection. The UBCS was dispatched to lend aid so as to possibly take care of the situation, but as the day progresses slowly it was getting worse. At the hospital, Kashina was seeing more bodies brought in and they were the same condition as the first 6 that came in today. Not to mention some doctors and nurses were having trouble with a woman that was going crazy right now but was being subdued upon a hospital table. At the same time as the T-virus was slowly starting to infect the population, the Umbrella Corporation had its most valuable employees that lived within the city picked up and evacuated. They didn't know for sure that they could have the virus contained and exterminated the infected, but they were not going to take any chances. The city was slowly descending into madness as the day progressed. September 25, 1998. It was dawn within Raccoon City and US Army units were called and were about to begin evacuating civilians, while at the same time setting up barricades around the city's perimeter, enforcing a quarantine. Within the city, traveling through it upon a bus was Minato and Naruto. Yes, they decided to take a bus and both of them were carrying a bag of groceries. They, along with the people upon it, took notice of seeing cops holding down a woman that was going crazy trying to break out of their hold, some of them standing and looking out their windows to see as the bus was passing by. Even Minato and Naruto looked and were wondering what the hell was going on. Minato, seeing the woman in the same condition as Mr. Matthews, assumed this to be another poor individual that was infected by the T-virus. The woman is zombie. Dad, what's going on? Naruto asked. They pass another street and this time they all saw multiple zombies and cops. That's when gunshots went off and the people inside the bus screaming in terror. Minato forced his son down hearing the gunfire. Minato knew what these things were, being zombies because of Umbrella's T-virus, but Naruto had no clue what was going on. A trucker that was driving his 18-wheeler through the city, but he was about to die succumbing to the T-virus. It wasn't long until he finally died with his body falling against the wheel and his foot against the gas, making the truck move, speed on the truck increasing as it was now ramming vehicles aside. The bus that Minato and Naruto were on passes by another street, however the truck was traveling along that street. The truck crashing into the bus, both Naruto and Minato were in tipping them over. For Naruto, right when the truck hit their bus his vision went black. The bus now tipped over on its side in the middle of the street, causes vehicles to come to a stop. Within the bus Minato raises himself up having cuts, people conscious or unconscious, but right now his concern was his son, who he found seeing someone else on top of him. Minato pushes the person that was atop his son off and hefts him up, seeing Naruto in a far worse condition than him with many cuts, but also had bruises. He was instantly worried for his son and checked for a pulse, and thank God to him his son was still breathing. Minato picked his son up, holding him within his arms bridal style, with Naruto having one arm upon his chest and the other hanging. Minato went to where the emergency exit that was on the ceiling of the bus and kicks on it multiple times, forcing it open, and stepped through out to the streets. Now on the streets, Minato looked upon the scene, seeing few zombies walking but the cops for now, along with seeing the UBCS doing their best containing the situation as best they can. Even though they were fighting against the now small threat that the T-virus seemed to pose, it would become bigger throughout the week. Minato right now focused on wanting to take his son to the hospital, seeing the condition he was in, and on top of that there was a news crew on the scene right now reporting on what was going on within Raccoon City to the world. A cop that was actually an SWAT came to the area citing Minato and his son. "Are you two okay, Minato?" the SWAT operative asked aloud. The cop knew Minato, seeing as he was a member of STARS that was now being called back in to assist in the current situation. "I am, but my son and these people need to get to the hospital." They both ducked low to the ground as gunshots rang aloud. "The hospital is a no-go." "What do you mean?" "Whatever is happening to these people making them act like this is happening over there as well. Don't go there. All STARS are to report back in for immediate duty. My wife is at the hospital and my son is hurt." Gunshots continue to be heard aloud. "Get your son to safety, but I highly recommend that you do not go to the hospital, Minato." Minato pushed him aside, not listening, and was going to head to the hospital anyway. He had his gun drawn ready to shoot down any zombie that threatened him and his son. As he was making his way he managed to bring out his phone and dialed Kushina's number, putting the phone to his ear and upon his shoulder with his ear pressed against it. He brought up his gun, firing a single shot into the head of a zombie that was attempting to bite another officer. "Minato, is that you?" Kushina on the other side of the line asked. "Kushina. Naruto is hurt and I am bringing him to the hospital." "Is he okay?" "He's alive but he needs medical attention. I am coming to you." "No, don't." "What?" Minato fires another bullet, hitting another zombie in the head. "Don't bring him here. You and Naruto get out of the city while you still can." "Not without you." "Minato, it's not safe over here." Kushina informed, as right now she was at the hospital with herself locked within a room. "Get him out of the city now," Kushina demanded. In the background Minato can hear the moaning of zombies. "What about you?" "Minato, please just take our son and go. Tell him that I love him." Kushina hung up. Minato of course was shocked. He couldn't believe what was happening here. He wanted to go to the hospital now for his wife as well as the condition of his son, but knowing of the situation at the hospital he couldn't go there risking his son's life as well. He had no choice but to do as his wife said. He took sight of a car and decided that he would hijack it. So he put his son in safely and went to the front seat, hotwiring the car, but then a zombie came out of nowhere grabbing Minato, but the man brought up his own hand grabbing the zombie's neck. Minato pushes the zombie away, falling back on the street, and Minato takes aim with his gun, shooting off a single shot to its head. He closed the door and continued hotwiring the car, and upon success he takes off in the vehicle with the intention of leaving the city with his son. He followed a road that would lead out of the city, and he wasn't surprised seeing other people following it as well, wanting to escape the slowly being infected Raccoon City. It was frightening seeing the infection at this level, which was low to Umbrella's eyes, but it was getting worse. By the end of the week the level of infection would be at a critical, and they knew that. They came to a stop seeing people ahead gathered up, and ahead of them was what looked to be a blockade comprised of the US Army and the UBCS. It looked like they were letting people pass, but at the same time they were checking to see if anyone was bitten. It seems that with the short amount of time that passed, they figured out how people were turned into zombies and how they can tell if they were infected. Not only did it look like that Umbrella had UBCS assisting the police in the streets of Raccoon City, but it also looked like they offered their assistance to aiding in the blockade with the US Army. Minato knew what they were doing, and it pissed him off. Something told him that if he walked up there and they saw him, mainly being the UBCS, carrying Naruto who was Subject 9, they would let them pass in a heartbeat. But if they were allowed out of the city, Umbrella would take his son away afterwards. Minato slammed his right fist upon the wheel, making the car honk its horn, frustrated from the current situation. He watched the events unfold before him, and upon sighting someone fall down dead and UBCS of a total of 3, pushed people back and aimed their guns. When the man risen its head, now a zombie, they immediately fire, killing the zombie and people screaming in terror backing away. What happened next was the UBCS were called back to leave everyone else behind, seeing the infection already this far. They ran past and through the wall that was set up blocking escape from the city and was sealed off, shutting everyone else out from salvation. Minato didn't need to stick around to what was happening and so reversed and had only one destination to go, and that was home. It was the only place to go to so that he and his son can lay low in safety until hopefully rescue was sent into the city. When Minato finally arrived within their neighborhood where their home rested, he can see a very small amount of zombies walking the street, counting having seen 4 so far. When he came close to his home, he saw one of his neighbors on his own front lawn with a bat, swinging it into the zombie's head. The man swinging the bat down upon the zombie's head until he broke open its head, making sure it was dead. Minato did not bother parking properly within his own parking lot, as Naruto's safety was more important right now. When he exited the front and immediately went to the back, grabbing and lifting his son out, and upon turning around there he saw his neighbor coming toward him with the bat. Minato immediately grabs, pulling out and aiming his gun upon the non-infected man. "Back off, we're not one of those things." "Prove it." "We're not bitten." "Bullshit," the man said and ran toward Minato, who instead of shooting the man, delivered a spinning kick to his neighbor's face, knocking him to the ground as well as losing his bat. Minato didn't bother wasting time as went to the front door of their house, quickly unlocking the door, entering and slamming shut. He quickly locks the door and heads to the kitchen, making sure the glass slide open door to the back was locked shut as well. Kurama's bark is heard and Minato sees the dog running down the stairs to them. Minato shushes the dog going up the stairs with his gun at the ready, thinking of the possibility of a zombie being within their house somewhere. He first checks Naruto's room, seeing no one in here, and places his son upon the bed. "Kurama, you stay and protect Naruto, okay?" Minato asked the loyal dog. "That sits, good boy." He then resumed his sweep of the house, checking the second floor he was upon first, and when going to the bathroom, he closed the toilet seat shut. He even went as far as opening a drawer, pulling out tape and taped the toilet seat down, not wanting any rat coming through which he suspected was infected. Afterwards he continued his sweep of the second floor, seeing it all clear, and proceeded downstairs, checking his office and then his own room. The whole place was clear, and so he proceeded to make sure all windows were locked and shut, as well as bringing down the blinds. When he knew that it was safe, he went up to Naruto's room, looking upon his injured son, not knowing that he would be fully recovered by the end of the week. It was a nasty crash they had come out of. He walked to Naruto's closed window, looking out into the street, seeing a man outside with a pistol firing upon a zombie that was approaching his front porch. The man fired off his 5th shot into the chest of the zombie that continued forward and shoots the final bullet of his gun, grazing the side of the zombie's shoulder. He quickly retreated within his own house, closing the door just in time before the zombie could get inside, the zombie now banging on the door. Minato can hear the sirens of police cars in the distance, not just in this neighborhood but also in the city of Raccoon. This was much different from the Konoha attack, as the people within the city back then were not like this, like zombies, but more like people walking around with a deadly disease. The kind that if you touched them then you were immediately infected, that would take up to an hour, but you still remained yourself but would eventually go mad. This was far worse than that terrorist attack, as they were able to contain and dispose of it. This one, however, was far worse and was getting out of hand as time progressed. In the Konoha attack, it was the prototype T that was launched upon Konoha, testing a prototype version of the T-virus back then, but this was the complete T-virus. A cop car comes into the area and the cops exiting aim their guns upon the zombie, immediately opening fire. Then running out of the man's backyard open fence doorway was a dog, but it looked like it had missing skin, suffering from a bite from a zombie now infected. It attacks the cops with it, jumping atop one of the cops, biting his neck and ripping it apart. The female cop aims her weapon and opens fire. Minato brings down the blinds of his son's window and gets to work. What did he get to work on? He went down to his closed-off garage, picking up pieces of wood and a drill, and so went to work of drilling the wood over window from the inside on the bottom floor of their house only. After he was done he let himself fall to the ground right then and there and silently began to cry for his wife who had to leave behind, who told him to leave her behind for Naruto's and his sake. He thought about going after her, but if he did he would leave Naruto here totally defenseless, no matter how well sealed off the house seemed. He did not want to risk his son's safety. He was now back upstairs with his son who opened his eyes slowly. The evening orange sky was approaching upon Raccoon City. Dad? Hey. What happened? We got hit by a truck, Nasty result afterwards. Nasty was right seeing his father's condition of all the cuts and forming bruises with one on his arm and a small one on the side of his face. Naruto however was in a worse condition as his whole body felt incredibly sore. He was lucky that bones were not broken, cuts and bruises, as well as having blood trickling down the left side of his mouth. Naruto would be in the bed for a while so as to recover, and if he had a control of the Prototype T or Prototype T virus, then he would be able to heal faster. A normal human being would be bedridden for more than a week from a crash like that, but this was better than more than a week long of healing. Where is mom? Naruto asked. Is she home? No. When is she coming back? Minato didn't know how to answer that. He couldn't say your mother is trapped within the hospital filled with a bunch of zombies. Your mother is going to be gone for a while, son. Within the Raccoon City General Hospital, said individual was carefully listening through the door within the locked room she was in. It had gotten quiet. Within the hospital a small number of zombies were slowly walking the halls, with some of them having been meant to go to the morgue but unfortunately didn't make it. Some zombies were just standing there in one spot, and at the front double glass doors 2 zombies were trying to get outside, but they didn't know how to open doors. They wanted to feast on the people that were running through the streets trying to find safety, police and UBCS on the streets, fighting against the continuing growing zombie threat. Kushina can hear the gunfire and screams from within the locked room she was in, curled up in a ball against the wall, scared and most importantly quiet. A while ago they were banging on her door, but they seemed to have given up not long ago. If you bleed out profusely then zombies would smell it, putting them in a frenzy, making them move with more speed toward the source of blood. If you were too loud then the zombies would hear you and would be onto you. There were even some zombies that did not walk so fast but slow like a turtle, and you can just run right past them if you wanted to save ammunition and came into an encounter of the slow walking kind. It was better to just go right past them. Kushina crawled silently to the door and she unlocked the door as quietly as she could to cracking it open as quietly as she could. As she peeked through the crack she saw a zombie turning her direction and she quickly closes the door with silence as well as locking it, backing away into a corner. Luckily the room she was in had stored food that didn't require being fridge. She can eat and live off of these in here and maybe plan her escape from this hospital and this city so as to reunite with her husband and son. She hoped they were alright. She reached into her pocket, pulling out her phone, turning it on, looking upon the screen of her, Minato and Naruto. Minato had a big goofy smile that was bigger than Kushina's, while Naruto's was a small one. She then saw how much battery was left, being half, and decided that it was wise to save up on battery, so she lowered the lighting of the screen to its lowest level to help. Later within the night it seemed to be quiet in the Namikaze's family's neighborhood, but in the city was where the chaos was happening. There were people living, but it would slowly be reduced to undead, and gunfire can still be heard as police officers were fighting the zombie hordes, but it didn't seem they were getting anywhere. Minato knows that he was called to assist against the growing horde of zombies, but he wasn't going to because of his son. He was deeply sorry for the friends he had in the RPD, seeing as he was staying with his child, but he was sure that they would understand. Civilians were evacuated to the police station by Brian Irons, but in truth this was all a trap for the cops and innocents, with communication cut off to the outside. On September 26 the police station was lost, but the officers on the 27 made an attempt, more like last, to destroy the zombies on the streets. The city would soon be lost in time entirely by the infection. Their barricades did not hold on for long as they were overturned and they were destroyed by the zombies. But on the 26th the Umbrella Corporation sent in several UBCS squads performing search and rescue, which would end disastrously for the survivors. Bioweapons of the corporation were dispatched to help destroy evidence of Umbrella's involvement, such as survivors. The UBCS however was secretly tasked to gather data of their bioweapons, as well as destroying any incriminating evidence. September 28, 1998. It was worse than ever outside. Minato could tell as he looked outside through the window blinds of Naruto's upstairs room window. Zombies walked the streets in their slow pace, moaning, and the neighborhood was dead quiet except for the zombie moans. His son was still in bed recovering and was now asleep. He was still unaware of what was happening to the city or the horrors that walked its streets. The German shepherd dog Kurama next to Naruto's side. As if things couldn't get any worse than they were, the light suddenly go out as well as the rest of the neighborhood and the city itself. "You got to be kidding me," Minato said. Minato then hears what sounds like gunfire, and so he looks back through the blinds of Naruto's window to the street below and sees two USS squad members approaching down the street, both of them armed with handguns. They were out of ammo for their rifles and so had switched to their sidearm that they had plenty left ammunition for. They were about to arrive at the target's house, and as soon as they grabbed the target all they had to do was call in for pickup to lift them out of here. Minato saw them heading toward their house. Shit. But the two USS operatives, none of Wolfpack, they come to a stop and duck behind cover of a parked vehicle. One of the two taking aim with his gun scanning the area looking out for any approaching zombies which he would take out. The other looked over the vehicle from his crouched position toward the Namikaze household while brining two fingers up to his earpiece. "Command, we reached the target's location," USS Operative 1 said. "Roger that. Proceed into the house, kill anything that gets in your way and retrieve Subject 9. Command ordered. "Roger that, Command, over and out," USS Operative 1 said and looked to the other with him motioning his head toward the house. Meanwhile with Minato he tells Kurama to stay with Naruto and protect him and shuts Naruto's door. He then headed downstairs and upon arriving heard what sounded like someone picking the lock of their front door. He quickly made his way hiding just in time missing the gaze of the two USS operatives that gently pushed the front door open, both of them on one knee, aiming their handguns through the darkened house. They did not want to kick the door in so as to not attract zombies or alert Subject 9, as well as anyone or anything in the house. In fact, if you were to look upon their handguns you would see they were equipped with silencers now. USS Operative 1 looks to 2 and gives a nod and the two silently proceed inside turning on the flashlight on their pistols, but not before closing the front door behind them. One of the USS operatives flashed the light under his gun up toward the stairs, where Naruto's room was, while the other flashed his light down the hall on the bottom floor which Minato was hiding in. He was actually hiding in the washing room and makes a quick peek and brings his head away before the light flashes upon him. He saw both of them and one of them had the intention of going upstairs and he didn't want that. USS Operative 1 tells 2 to go upstairs and Minato makes a knocking noise grabbing both of their attention. Minato then runs out of the laundry room down the hall, with both of the USS operatives seeing this and fire their guns, but they all miss as Minato manages to run around the corner at the end of the hall. "Command, we got a hostile," USS Operative 1 said. "Who or what is it?" "We believe it's the father. He is also a member of SS. Find him and kill him. Retrieve 9 afterwards." "Roger." The two USS operatives moved down the hall, but then Minato came from around the corner ahead taking aim and fires. The two USS operatives with one behind a piece of furniture that was within the hall and the other drops to the ground, both of them then fire back, hitting only the corner where Minato covered back behind. "We got him cornered," USS Operative 2 said who was on the floor. "Let's finish him then," USS Operative 1 said. Then out of nowhere they see a smoke grenade thrown down the hall toward them that begins spraying the smoke and filling the hall. "Where did he get a smoke grenade from?" USS Operative 2 asked. "He's obviously trying to use it for cover," USS Operative 1 said. "But there is nowhere for him to go down there." Little did they know there was a secret crawl space for one to go through that would open up just behind the two USS operatives. It loosened and peeking out with Minato seeing the two USS operatives stand while keeping their aim down the hall where they believe Minato is still at. "I will deal with the cop, you go and get 9 and call in pickup," USS Operative 1 said to 2. The USS operative does as told turning around and heading for the stairs up to the second floor while the other operative that gave the order went through the smoke that was slowly filling the bottom level of the house. USS Operative 2 proceeded upstairs with caution, his gun aimed because you may never know that a zombie may be in the house. The operative saw the bathroom door opening it while taking aim seeing no one inside and then he came upon Naruto's unlocked door. The USS operative grabs the doorknob twisting it and gently pushes it open citing the dog that immediately growls at him showing its teeth at the same time. The USS operative seeing the dog can tell that it wasn't infected but then he took sight of who Umbrella was after. The target Subject 9 resting in the bed and was still asleep despite the gunfire from earlier. The USS operative takes aim upon Kurama who was still growling. "Say goodney." The operative was then tacked and picked up at the same time by Minato out of nowhere and both heading toward a window. The USS operative caught by surprise and before he could even counter in any way he was thrown breaking out and through the second-story window, the first USS operative downstairs hearing and the second landing and breaking the fence of Mr. Matthews. Minato looked down upon the USS operative that broke through the fence below, the man still conscious below, but his gun was gone. Minato then saw the zombie Mr. Matthews approach the downed USS operative who reached back for his knife but was too late as the zombie lunges down and bites upon the Umbrella operative's neck. Minato didn't spare another glance upon the man being devoured by the walking corpse of Mr. Matthews as he had to worry about the other man in his house. With the USS operative downstairs, he backtracks through the smoke down the hall, and then he comes to a stop, taking notice of the slightly opened crawl space in the wall. "Son of a bitch, he went right past us," the USS operative said. The USS operative moves down the hall that would lead into the living room where he would proceed upstairs, but as soon as arrived in the living room, gunfire came at him from the kitchen to his left. The USS operative jumped behind the cover of a couch, taking covering from Minato, who was standing up, firing his gun from behind the kitchen counter within the center of the kitchen. The USS operative then aims his sidearm over couch, firing blind into the kitchen, and luckily Minato ducked down in time, avoiding the bullets, but one of them breaks the glass door in the back, the smoke going out. Minato checked his gun and saw that he only had one bullet left and he couldn't go to his other weapon that was in his room. He looked up to the kitchen counter, seeing kitchen knives put away, and quickly reaches up, grabbing one to putting his sidearm away. The last remaining USS operative had 3 bullets left, stood up aiming his weapon before him, proceeding into the kitchen, slowly having Minato cornered. "You got nowhere to run, Minato Namikaze," the USS operative taunted. "So why don't you come out here and I will be sure that it is quick with a bullet going in between your eyes." Minato looked to his left, seeing a pan on the kitchen floor. As he was ducked sitting behind the kitchen counter the USS operative was in front of. "It's over," the USS operative said, taking aim, waiting for Minato to pop his head out. Minato kicked the pan across the floor, grabbing the USS operative's attention. That shot 2 rounds, but realized it was a distraction. Minato quickly stood up, turning and threw the knife into the head of the last USS operative, killing him before he can even pull the trigger of his gun to fire off the last bullet. The USS operative was standing for a second and then he falls back onto the kitchen floor dead. Minato walks to the kitchen counter, putting his gun aside atop the marble kitchen table in the center of the kitchen, and then to the counter, taking a break. Minato had succeeded defeating Umbrella this time, preventing them from taking his son away from him. However, he did not notice a zombie quietly walking through the broken open glass door approaching him. The zombie was in fact Mr. Matthews, who was getting closer to the turned Minato, who finally felt his senses alerting him. He motions his eyes to his left, not looking over his shoulder, and then quickly grabbing another kitchen knife, turns around with the zombie coming at him with a roar, intending to bite him. Umbrella Security Service Command. The failure to contain viral samples has left Umbrella in a precarious situation. Hunk is not responding. Hunk has not responded for 16 hours since the failed mission to retrieve the G virus. The UBCS wing has deployed their forces. The chatter of UBCS personnel scattered throughout the city is heard throughout the week of infection spreading amongst Raccoon City. UBCS Command. UBCS Team 4 report. UBCS Operative 1. Command, we're seeing a lot RPD and civilian activity in the downtown area. UBCS Operative 2. Command, we have neutralized the threat, 2 Raccoon officers down, 2 bitten. Recommend evacuation of valuable Umbrella staff immediately. Gunfire and the screams of innocence. UBCS Operative 3. Team 5 reporting. Gunfire near the hospital. I repeat, gunfire near the hospital. We have positive contact. UBCS Command. Understood, move to contain. RPD 911 female dispatch. Mommy, please calm down. What is the nature of your emergency? Emergency caller. They're trying to get through the windows. Please help us. Windows break, zombie snarling, woman screams. RPD 911 female dispatch. Mommy. UBCS Operative 4. Our line is breached, we can't hold them off. UBCS Operative 5. They're everywhere. UBCS Operative 6. Containment failed. I repeat, containment failed. Requesting extraction. USS. It has so far only been 121 hours since the beginning of the outbreak, now late within the night of the 28th of September. The infection level is at a critical. Umbrella Security Service Command. To ensure Umbrella's survival, the story of what happened here in Raccoon City must never be told. We must assure that each scrap of evidence dies here along with every survivor. Operation Raccoon City has been initiated to USS teams to erase evidence of Umbrella's link to the outbreak. USS Command informed Umbrella Security Service Task Force Delta Team, Wolfpack, your mission is the most crucial. USS Alpha Team Echo 9 has not responded, their mission objective, the capture of Subject 9, is your mission now. Commence Operation Fox Hunt. Present time September 28, 1998, epidemic level after 121 hours. Critical. Namika's house 10:25 p.m. He was completely unaware of the events that transpired within Raccoon City, seeing as he was asleep. It was deadly quiet within the household as well as outside as Naruto opens his eyes, waking up slowly, sitting himself up, and gave a quiet yawn while stretching his arms. He eyed the clock that was to his right and saw that actually it wasn't showing the time at all because it was blank. Naruto looked to his window and saw that it was dark outside, showing the night sky. He decided to inspect his clock as he checks to see if it's plugged in, and it was. Was it possibly something wrong with the batteries? No, that can't be, he changed them, replacing them with fresh new ones. Is the power out? Naruto wondered. Getting up, he walked over to the light switch next to his room door and flicked it, the teen looking up to his fan to see the light bulb under and in center turn on and the fan spin, but it didn't. This pretty much confirmed that the power was out to Naruto. He looked over to the window of his room one more time and took notice the closed blinds, so he walked over and pulled them up, revealing the outside to him. He looked outside into his neighborhood and it was completely dark on the streets, every street light was off and not even any porch lights were spotted, and Naruto knew that he had always seen some every night leaving their porch lights on. Raccoon has gone dark. Looking at and now paying attention to street level, he took notice of a crashed vehicle into a street lamp with the airbag inside deployed. He can see some windows in houses broken open and some doors broken down. Looking back in the distance with the tall buildings, he can see smoke rising in the sky. What happened? Were they being attacked, with this being a possible terrorist attack? What's going on? Crash. Naruto quickly looks over his shoulder, hearing what sounded like the crash of glass breaking, and from the sound of it came from downstairs. Mom? Thinking maybe his mom had arrived late from work, but looking back outside, he didn't see her car parked in the parking lot beside his dad's truck. So it couldn't possibly be Kushina, meaning she must still be at the hospital. That's when he finally realized and remembered that he was wearing a watch around his right wrist the entire time and felt stupid. He looked upon the watch on his wrist and Naruto read the time being 11:45 p.m. She's usually back before 11. Is it dad down there? Or what if it's an intruder? Was Minato, who was surely home, aware of the crash? Could he have possibly not heard it? Walking to his closet and opening, he grabs for his metal baseball bat, holding it within his right grasp, and walks over to his desk. Opening the drawer, he pulled out a flashlight. With a click of the button, it turned on, shining as he pointed it toward the wall, but then the light flickers, going out. Naruto patting the side of it to see if he can make it come back on, even giving a few clicks only for the light to stay off. You got to be kidding me. He needed a fresh new pair of batteries, and guess where they were? That's right, you guessed it, downstairs in the kitchen. Great, Naruto said, annoyed. He put the flashlight away in his pocket, as now he was going to have to go downstairs where the crash was hard in the kitchen. His mother and father's room was in the downstairs hallway. Then another thought came to him. Kurama. Where was Kurama? He hoped he was okay. Naruto walked to his door and taking in some steady breaths, he turns the doorknob, opening it and cracking it open, peeking outside into the dark second floor hallway. Seeing that it was clear, he pushed it open slowly and as quietly as possible. He proceeds down the hallway slowly, being as quiet as possible with his footsteps. Seeing the bathroom door that was open coming up to his left, he peeked around the corner inside and whispered. Kurama, you in here? Kurama was nowhere to be seen inside or found. Naruto even parted open the curtain to the shower he used, and his dog was not in there. Naruto was now going to go downstairs to the first floor. He intended to be as quiet as possible, but the stairs didn't agree with him as he brought one foot down and… Creak. Really? Naruto asked as he looked at the steps. You guys are seriously going to do this to me? Regardless, he continued making his way down the stairs, trying to be as quiet as possible, but certain stairs didn't agree with him. He felt as if the stairs were taunting him. As he continued to get closer down to the first floor of his house, he could hear the ticking of the minute hand of the kitchen clock going. Tick. 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 Finally reaching the bottom of the stairs, he cautiously made his way down to the corner and peeked around, now looking into the kitchen. He saw no one, but he did see pieces of a broken glass scattered on the kitchen floor. Were those bullet holes he was sighting within the walls? That's when he took notice of the blood trailing from behind the counter. Then there was the back slide open door to the backyard that was closed, broken to pieces open, a small breeze blowing in. Naruto hoped it wasn't the blood of who he hoped it wasn't as he walked to the kitchen and looking around the counter, thankfully was not his father Minato Namikaze, but someone else, which had to be the intruder. If only Naruto can't see his face. Naruto reached for the drawer handle and pulling it open, he saw what was needed for his flashlight, and that was a new fresh pair of batteries, and only one pair. He replaced them while eyeing the intruder. When he finally got them in, he pointed the flashlight up, turning on, shining its bright light. Then he brought that light down upon the intruder. What he saw made take steps back in slight fright. A thin stab through the right side of the man's skull that looked to be Mr. Matthews' zombie was a kitchen knife, and that wasn't the only thing that got to him, but the man's appearance. It was frightening. He looked like a horror creature you see or read about only in fiction. He looked like a rotten corpse, dead walking zombie. The torn cloths, the wide open mouth showing rotten teeth and evidence that it recently took a bite out of something, and the wide eyes, what Naruto was looking at, definitely reminded him of a zombie. But zombies aren't real, are they? Those wide eyes he saw reminded him of the wide eyes of the rat he killed up in his room. As he continued to look upon the dead zombie, Naruto's head all of a sudden started to hurt with a sudden migraine coming out of nowhere to coming to a stop seconds later. What the hell was that all about? Now he was getting another thought, and it was what the thing took a bite out of. He prayed it was not Kurama or his dad. He was going to search for his father within the house when he took notice of a trail of blood and drips on the floor, starting near the zombie going out of the kitchen and into the hallway where his parents' room was located in. He followed the trail of blood, aiming his flashlight at it, and it passed his parents' opened room, and looking inside, the bed was still perfectly well made, meaning his dad hadn't slept in it yet. He continued to follow the trail of blood, and it led to a door that was slightly parted open, and upon the door was the print of a bloody hand, blood trailing down from it and onto the carpet. This was his father's office now. He was scared and shaking with his bat. He placed the head of it against the door and pushed it open, shining the flashlight forward. Naruto's eyes widened at what he was shining his flashlight upon. Then no. Sitting down against his desk with blood trailing down from his neck from a bitten wound was none other than Minato Namikaze, his father. Naruto fell down to one knee, dropping his flashlight, the light still shining upon his father and his blood. The teenager brought his left hand covering his mouth, and tears immediately trailed down from his eyes. His breathing quickens and his heart pounding. Oh God. He picked himself up and walked over to his dead father, falling to his knees once again in front of him. He couldn't believe this was happening. This had to be some bad dream, it must be. However, he didn't find himself waking up, nor did he really think he was going to. This wasn't a dream, this was happening, and this was reality. Naruto lowered his head as he continued to cry for his father. Suddenly Minato's left arm came up, grasping Naruto's right shoulder, who was obviously frightened now, looking with a shocked face at his father's lowered head. Minato brought up his head slowly. He opened his eyes, revealing the still blue within them, but his skin was clear sign that he was going to turn. "Naruto, you're still alive, thank goodness," Minato said in a low tone. "Dad?" His father shushed him, making him quiet down. "Not so loud or they'll hear you." "They'll?" Minato was taking in small breaths until finally speaking to his son again. "You saw that thing in the kitchen, no?" "Mr. Matthews, yes. Did he do this to you? He bite you?" "He got the surprise on me, but I still managed to come up top," Minato said with a smile. He was getting weaker and weaker by the moment, meaning his time was almost up. Soon he was going to die. That was no man, at least not anymore. That was a zombie. A zombie? Chris told me Mr. Matthews was infected by a virus called the T-virus. T-virus? Naruto said as his father nods his head slowly. The viral weapon created by Umbrella. Minato revealed, remembering everything Chris told him of what happened at the mansion in the woods, the zombies and BOWs, Umbrella, and of Wesker's betrayal. The T-virus was what made that Mr. Matthews and everyone else in the city into a zombie, and whoever is bitten by one become infected. "What are saying?" Naruto asked, even though he pretty much knew the answer. He just didn't want to believe it. "Naruto, soon I am going to die from the virus, and I will become a walking flesh-eating corpse that will try to harm you. I don't want that." Naruto watched as his father brought up his right arm, revealing the samurai edge STARS pistol. He offers it to Naruto. "I want you to take this gun." Naruto begins to shake his head left and right and shoot me in the head. "No. You must." Minato nearly yelled, "I do not want to harm you, nor do I want to become one of those things. Maybe we can get help. Maybe there is a cure." Naruto said, shedding tears as Minato slowly shakes his head in a no answer. "I can save you." "Yes," Minato said as he put the gun in Naruto's hands that were shaking, Minato's hands around his son's. "You can." Minato looked Naruto in the eyes. The man can feel his life slipping away as the virus was killing him. "Listen, Naruto, you need to survive. Find your mother, and if she is alive, the two of you need to escape Raccoon City. There is a whole army of zombies out there and who knows what else. You can make it, Naruto, you and your mother, I believe in you. You are so much stronger than I am, you can survive this nightmare. Are you ready?" Naruto shakes his head in a yes as he stands and takes steps back. Trembling, he brings up the samurai edge and takes aim at his father's head, who gave him a smile. This is what he wanted for his son's sake. "I love you, son. I love you to TT, Dad." Naruto said as tears fell from his cheeks, his father lowering his head. "See you on the other side, son, but not yet, not yet." Minato closes his eyes. Naruto's heart was pounding at a rapid pace. He was sweating profusely. His tears continued to fall until he says, "I'm sorry." From outside the Namikaze household, a single gunshot is heard, with a single flash flashing from behind one of the curtain-covered windows that was Minato's office window on the first floor. Back inside, Naruto exits out of the doorway of his father's office and falls to his knees once again, trembling for what he had just done. He just shot his own father, he killed him. In truth, however, it was Umbrella that killed Minato Namikaze. He wanted to grieve, but he had to move as he had to get to the hospital and find his mother Kushina if she is alive and escape from Raccoon City, escape from this outbreak of Umbrella's T-virus. Umbrella. When he thought of them he was fueled with hatred, he wanted to make the Umbrella Corporation pay, he wanted revenge. As much as he now wanted to make Umbrella wish it never came to be, the issue now was find mom, escape Raccoon and revenge afterwards. He did as his father told him to, he went to his parents' room and opening a trunk where his dad kept his gear. What he found was what looked to be a black belt that had pouches that already held ammo for a pistol, and there was a single knife within a brown sheath vertically and looked to be buckled around just above one's foot. He also saw dark green elbow and knee pads for protection, along with a pair of black gloves. Lastly, what he saw was a sidearm being an HK-MK.23 pistol, along with what looked to be a sword in a silver metal sheath, and there was also a belt that had a holster that buckled around the left leg. Reaching for the pistol and sword, he placed them on his father and mother's bed, checks to see if the gun is loaded and ready to fire, he holsters it upon his left leg to putting everything on. He decided to check one of the pockets of the belt and found what looked to be a phone. Perhaps he can call for help. He opened it and to his luck it was fully charged and he dialed the only number he can think of and it was 911, he only got interference, but more like something that was jamming his phone signal. He sighed annoyed, but this phone did have one thing that was handy and it had a map of Raccoon City, this will be useful. First stop was going to the hospital to hopefully find his mother. Looking to the now empty samurai edge that belonged to his father, he decides that he will take it with him anyway. He then took notice of a family picture of him with his mother and father. Walking over to it he picked it up and took out the picture, folding it up and putting it away inside his pocket. Mom, please be okay. Then Kurama came to his mind and he was of course worried, but seeing that he obviously wasn't in the house, means he probably ran away. Naruto hoped he was safe. The teenage boy was now back within between the living room area and the kitchen, the front door to his right and the open back door to his left. Before he thinks of leaving the house he goes back up to his room and retrieves his sports-like pack, putting it on his back, as well as storing Minato's samurai edge within. The sheathed weapon was now on his back, diagonally going up his back's right with the hilt of the blade behind his right shoulder. Naruto then looked into the mirror that was within his room, looking upon his new appearance, seeing all the gear on him, the belts going over the chest of his high-collared white short-sleeved shirt, Uchiha shirt, does not mean that he's Uchiha, that supported the sheathed blade on his back. Naruto then walked down the stairs to the first floor, looking to the front door and then to the back, wondering which way he should go. If I go out the front door and into the streets I will be a sitting duck, who knows how many of those zombies are out there. Naruto thought. He walked over to one of the curtains and parted the down blindfolds of the window, with his HK-MK.23 he peeked, looking out into the front yard and into the street. Now he saw a few walking dead outside in the street, walking around at slow pace and making that moaning sound, all of them hungry for flesh. There was even one in Naruto's front yard where it was slowly pacing back and forth, these things were really slow. Note to self, zombies that are extremely slow just walk or run right past them, no need to waste ammunition. Naruto now looked toward the open back door and began walking toward it. As he did he couldn't help but look at the dead zombie in his kitchen that was basically responsible for his father's fate. Turning on the flashlight that was mounted under his gun, he shined the light upon the zombie's body, taking notice of the multiple stab wounds that Minato must have inflicted. There were even some on and around the heart, which he had to assume didn't work, but then noticing the knife within its head, through its head. Also shoot them in the head if you can. Naruto mentally thought. He turned off the flashlight under his gun and exited out back, quickly checking his left and right while aiming his gun and even turning around, going as far as to scan his roof. It was all clear. Naruto could easily hop over these fences. I can go over these, plus there is a good possibility of fewer encounters with zombies. Maybe I'll even come across any survivors who locked themselves in their houses. The best way to go was hopping the fences. Of course it wasn't going to stretch all the way to town, but it is the better and safer route. Naruto was being smart and not searching for a fight with the undead. If it ever came to that, then he is prepared for it. He climbed over the fence, intending on heading in the direction of Raccoon City, dropping into his neighbor's backyard. There was not a zombie in sight. He hops the next fence landing in the next yard. There was nothing back here but a doghouse accompanied by a growl from within said doghouse. Wait, a growl within a doghouse. Looking to the doghouse, Naruto watched as a dog that had less flesh and revealed muscle tissue and revealed bones steps out, bares its teeth, hungry for his flesh. Oh shit, Naruto said as the zombie dog growls at him. Hey there, Naruto said, who's a good boy? He asked, and the infected mutt kept up its growl. Yeah, you're a good boy and you're going to stay. Yeah, you're going to stay. The infected Cerberus dog barked at him. Nice teeth. Naruto complimented. The dog runs toward him, intending on eating him, but Naruto being quick leaps out of the way and lets the Cerberus crash through the fence into the backyard he was previously in. Naruto looked back through the hole in the fence caused by the attacking zombie dog and saw it getting back up to its feet, so he took aim with his pistol. The zombie dog turned facing Naruto and took charge with the teenager pulling the trigger, firing off a single shot as the zombie dog jumped toward him, the bullet piercing into its head, killing it instantly. Naruto sidesteps to his right, avoiding the body of the animal that soon takes tumble to the ground dead. He slowly made his way toward the dead dog with his gun still aimed, thinking that it was going to come back to life and try to take a bite out of him. When he was just above the corpse, he gave it a light kick to see if it would react. With any movement, it didn't. He took a knee and examined the zombie dog. Can't believe that something like this is actually happening. He had been at home recovering from the crash for the past week in his bed. As he recovered, he didn't need to go to a hospital for his injuries, which he was heading to find his mother. It was an unusual thing, really, seeing as wounds that he would receive would heal within a day, such as scrapes, cuts and even broken bones, but when it came to vital organs, then it would take at least a whole day. He continued making his way over the next fence, hopping into the next yard, and luckily there wasn't any infected dog, which was something he was thankful for. He hops the next fence and this time he saw 3 zombies, but it was inside the house, as he can see through the closed back door that he can see through, and what he was witnessing were the infected all on 4s, devouring the body of a woman dead on the kitchen floor. He felt like he was about to throw up as he saw one of them pull out intestines from her body and chewing on it. This is where Naruto lost it, and so he looked away, falling to a knee, and threw up having saw such a thing. He looked back just in time to see that one of the zombies inside took notice of him. Naruto and the zombie seemed to just stare as Naruto didn't break eye contact with the creature as he stood himself back up, turning its direction, tightening his grip around his gun, and finally the zombie gave out a moan as it rises up, getting the other two's attention, slowly looking his way. It wasn't long until the zombies were now banging on the glass door with their faces up against the glass, letting the blood in their mouths stain the glass, as well as the blood on their hands. Naruto didn't think that they were going to get out. But then the glass on the door gave way from the 3 zombies banging as they fell forward into the ground, with Naruto aiming his weapon ready to fire. One of the zombies picked itself slowly back up to its feet, now walking toward Naruto, but at a slow pace. He took aim and fired off a single shot into the zombie's head, instantly killing it. The other 2 were back on their feet and he fired off more shots, 3 shots as one hit one of the zombies in the head and the other receiving one in the shoulder and in the chest, falling back to the ground. Then this is when Naruto saw the corpse that the zombies of the dead woman they were devouring stand up, and taking careful aim, he fired off a 4th shot, hitting it in the head, making an instant kill. So far Naruto had fired 5 shots and had another 7 left in the mag of his gun. Believing he was done, he proceeded to walk for the next fence, but the zombie Naruto fired 2 shots into, and the one Naruto didn't get a headshot on suddenly opened its eyes. Naruto turned around quickly while aiming his gun, seeing the zombie rise up, and was wriggling about looking like it were being shocked, but at the same time saw that its eyes were now red replacing white, and that its skin was turning a crimson color. "What the hell?" Naruto said. Suddenly the zombie charged him, now running, surprising Naruto seeing it now move at its new speed. "Oh shit." He did the only thing that was obvious and pulled the trigger, firing off 4 shots, all of them hitting it within its chest, but it kept on coming. When the zombie was at striking distance to slash at Naruto with its sharp fingernails, the teenager did the one thing anyone would obviously do, and that was dodge, but he rolled to his left and back up to his feet. He then took aim with his weapon at the zombie's turn back and fired the last 3 shots, hoping to hit it in the head, but seeing it quickly turn his direction, one of the bullets went over its shoulders going through the fence, and the other 2 only went into its throat, making it stumble back, but not finish it off. When he fired off those last 3 shots within the mag of his gun, it made a chink sound, signaling that his gun was out, and he would have reached for another mag to reload his gun, but the now transformed zombie was charging at him once again, so Naruto rolls away again and back up to his feet, holstering his gun. He quickly reached up, grabbing his father's sword from his back, drawing it while turning it to the creature's direction, holding the blade in a Sephiroth stance, the blade well polished and clean, that it reflected the image of the zombie as it turned his direction. The crimson head charged Naruto once again, who stood there waiting for the moment to strike, and when it was close enough it reached out to grab him, but Naruto ducked while spinning low on his left heel and cuts the crimson head in half. The top half of the crimson head going over his head and into the ground, while the lower half of the crimson head, its legs, falling forward on the ground. Naruto thought that it was over, but hearing the continued snarling of the crimson head, he looked over his shoulder, seeing the top half of the crimson head dragging its way toward him at a fast pace, leaving a trail of blood behind. The crimson head strikes low, but Naruto jumps in the air while turning himself the crimson head's direction and brought down, slamming his right foot down upon the head of the crimson head zombie, crushing it and finally ultimately killing it. Bringing up his foot he flicked it making blood fly off and then swished his blade down to his left, making blood fly off it to spinning his blade, once to sheathing it back behind his back to bringing out his empty HKMK.23. He looked down at the dead Crimson Head while he made the empty mag fall out from under the gun, while at the same time pulled out another and reloaded, he then cocking the gun loading it. What the hell just happened? Naruto asked no one in particular. It was as if the zombie changed all of a sudden, increasing in speed and was sure in strength as well. It looked as if it transformed, but what caused it? With these questions in mind he would have to think of an answer later as he had to keep moving. At first his idea was to move away from the city, but he had no idea that right now the United States government was surrounding the entire city so as to contain the infection. Why he was not leaving the city yet was to head to the hospital and hopefully find that Kushina was still alive. As he was moving through from yard to yard going over fence to fence he came upon encountering two zombies and upon immediately landing upon one knee, he took aim with his MK.23 and fires upon the zombies. Naruto however focused upon firing upon one of them first as he fired 3 shots with one of them hitting the zombie in the chest, the other in the arm, and the third in the head being an instant kill. He now had one more zombie to kill and it was coming toward him at a fast walking pace. Naruto took aim at the zombie's legs, firing 2 carefully aimed shots hitting each of its legs, making it fall into the ground front first. Naruto takes advantage and dashes toward the downed zombie to leaping through the air toward it and slamming his right foot upon its head killing it. Naruto hears what sounds like a multiple moaning sounds and aiming his weapon to his right to a fence, he takes notice of the fence moving and sounded like it was being banged upon. It was then the fence gave way and knocking the fence over were a total of 12 zombies, all moving at a fast pace toward him. Oh shit. Naruto unloaded the remainder of bullets he had left in his current round and afterwards turned running through the open back door of the house to slamming it shut behind him. He had his back to the door as he turned the lock on the doorknob locking it and hearing the moans of the zombies on the other side of the door. He looks around in the dark kitchen he was standing within while pressing the small button on the side of the gun, making the empty round fall out, hitting the kitchen floor echoing aloud. He took out another magazine and pops it into the bottom of his gun loading it. He aimed his gun forward, flashing the light mounted below it throughout the dark kitchen, seeing that everything was in order. He began moving through the building with caution with his gun aimed and trying to be as quiet as possible. As he was moving through the kitchen and into the living room, he thought he saw something move through the darkness to his left and so he quickly aimed his weapon. The light projected from his gun seeing a leg just around the corner in the hall up ahead but was gone the next second, the person on the move. "Hello?" Naruto whispered. He moved down the hall that had doors on its left and right. The doors were closed, but then he heard what sounded like movement from behind one of the doors to his left. He put his ear against it listening in and then heard the sound of movement once again. He then with his free right hand pushed the door open gently and when it was cracked open suddenly a cat jumped out and passed him hissing aloud, it made him jump falling back on the floor. He then kicked his feet above his head, making himself turn on the floor and aiming his gun while still on his back down the hall to the cat that was facing him. The cat had wide eyes and it was infected. But the light flashed upon the cat's face he saw that it had blood around its mouth, wide eyes, missing skin, and it gave him a loud hiss that was not normal for a cat. "First dogs now cats," Naruto said. The cat leaped toward him with its sharp and bloody claws, but Naruto rolled himself back and upon his feet on one knee, with the cat landing in his spot and him aiming his gun. This happened quickly and Naruto took the shot seeing the advantage killing the cat at point blank range, spilling the shreds of pieces of its head on the floor. "I hate cats," Naruto said. He stood up and looked within the room that the infected cat jumped out of and noticed that this room had a collection of dolls that were the kind he didn't like. It was a room full of clowns and he hated clowns. All the dolls on the shelves as well as figurines just freaked him out and so he shut this door, not wanting to even gaze into this room even if it was out of the corner of his eye. Who the hell collects clowns like that? Naruto then remembered as he was going after someone he saw within this house and so he proceeded back down the hall. When he reached the end of it he had his back against the wall and then peeked around the corner aiming his gun at the same time. He was now flashing the light below his gun upon stairs going up to a second floor. He went up the stairs and thankfully these were not like those crappy stairs in their house they never got to replace. When he reached the second floor it looked all clear but it wasn't as he swears there was someone within this house. He flashed his light down the hall and took notice of what looked to be a kneeling 10-year-old girl with her back turned to him. Naruto was about to call out to the little girls, but the so-called little girl turns his direction revealing her red skin being a crimson head. The crimson head immediately upon sighting hisses aloud running down the hall toward him. It was freaky what Naruto seeing a little girl as zombie coming at him like this wanting to eat him. Naruto didn't know whether to pull the trigger or not because it was just a little girl, but it wasn't anymore but a monster. He pulls the trigger, firing a multiple of shots with each piercing into the little girl's small body, but she was still coming, and the only way to put a zombie down for good was shooting it in the head. Of course he can keep firing bullets upon its body and it would fall and die, but the thing is that would waste bullets. Naruto holsters his gun and reaches with his right hand for the hilt of the blade behind him, grasping it. The little girl that was a crimson head leaped through the air toward him, hissing aloud at him, showing him her sharp and bloody teeth that looked to still have pieces of flesh and blood around its mouth going down to its neck, staining its cloths. The crimson head having its sharpened nails and hands stretched out for him. Naruto was faster though, as he quickly ducked, drawing his blade and slashes his blade above his head to his right, slashing the crimson head across its small body. Naruto now upon one knee, holding his blade out to his right. The crimson head hits the floor, taking a tumble down the stairs, leaving stains of blood behind on the steps, and upon hitting the bottom floor upon the side of its neck, it breaks, killing the crimson head. He sheaths his blade back within its confines to standing tall upon his feet and look down the stairs toward the dead girl that fell victim to the T-virus. Naruto looked away with closed eyes, realizing that he killed a little girl, but he had to realize that it wasn't a little girl anymore but monster. He couldn't blame himself for what he just did, as it is not his fault but the company responsible for the creation of this virus. He looked back down the hall of the second floor and out of nowhere their zombie was in front of him, lunging forward at him. The zombie successfully grabs him and the two go for a tumble down the stairs. Naruto and the zombie rolling upon and over the body of the dead crimson head, with Naruto within the roll, kicks the zombie off his body and into the wall. The zombie, now in a sitting position against the wall, looks back at Naruto before him, who was sitting up upon the floor, took aim with his gun, firing off a single shot into the zombie's head. Naruto cursed himself for not paying attention and even hissed in pain, looking to his arm, seeing his arm having suffered a wound caused by the tumble down the stairs. It was bleeding a little down his arm, but unbeknownst to him that was not good. The zombies in the backyard of the house, numbering in a total of 12, suddenly smell the blood of Naruto inside the house and go crazy. They all moved toward the door with a great increase of speed and were now banging on the door violently. Naruto inside takes notice, hearing the loud banging, and stood up, walking to the kitchen area, looking upon the backlocked door. He then saw the door starting to give way as the doorframe cracks, proving that the zombies were now attacking with a greater increase in strength and a blood frenzy. Naruto then heard the front door being banged upon, and outside from the front of the house, zombies were gathering outside the house, a few already at the front door banging on the door. These numbers combined with the zombies in the backyard were too much for him, so he wondered how he was going to get out. Was this it? He told himself that he couldn't give up now and so started to think as quickly as he could, and then he got an idea. He just hopes the folks of this place had won. He quickly ran into the kitchen, going toward the sink down to a knee, and opened the doors below, looking inside. Yes. It was a propane tank, and I know what you are thinking. What kind of family leaves a propane tank under their sink in the kitchen? Naruto wondered that himself, but there was just no time for such a thing. He holsters his gun, grabbing the propane tank, and quickly rushed upstairs with it, to running down the hall to a window. He saw a table in the way and placed the tank upon it, to parting open the window, looking to the other house on the other side and closed glass window. He had a plan, and he just hoped that the zombies did not knock over the propane tank he placed upon the table. God, I hope this works. Naruto quickly ran down the hall so that he can get a running start. It was at this time both the front and back doors of the house were broken down to flesh-hungry undead, and they immediately ran down the hall that would lead upstairs, smelling the blood coming from Naruto's healing wound. Naruto hears them having broken and causing him to look over his shoulder down the stairs, and there he saw the zombies turn round the corner and were now coming toward him. Naruto even took notice of some crimson heads that were within the horde, and so Naruto runs down the hall. The zombies were hot on his tail, chasing down the second floor hall of the building toward the opened window Naruto was running for. Naruto jumps up upon the table, making sure he didn't hit the propane tank and bringing his other foot down upon the window sill. In a slow motion moment, Naruto leaps out the window through the air toward the closed window on the other side. The zombies reaching the table, hitting against it, making the tank shake. Naruto within the air manages to turn his form around within the air, while at the same time reaches for his sidearm and takes aim. His target was the propane tank that the zombies over, reaching out their hands for him. Naruto took in a breath, holding it so as to keep a straight aim and not to be shaking, and looking down the sight, having aim upon the propane tank, he pulled the trigger. A single shot is fired, echoing aloud, and the bullet shooting through the air toward the propane tank and makes a direct hit. The result is obvious, being a powerful explosion that was so powerful the force of it pushes Naruto through the air, and his back and himself go crashing through the window of the opposite house he was jumping for. The house Naruto was within blows up, and Naruto himself taking a nasty tumble down a hall, rolling like a bowling ball to going down a flight of stairs to the bottom floor. The house Naruto was within is now on fire, with the top portion of the house now gone and with many burning zombies. smoke rising into the night sky and the fire spreading light upon the dark streets of the small amount of zombies walking the streets. The pieces of the house flying apart landing upon the ground as well as hitting some zombies lighting some on fire, but were small fires. Naruto in the meantime opens his eyes looking up into the ceiling of the house he was now in, his wound now healed, and was lucky that he didn't get another one that made him bleed, having just taken another trip down another pair of stairs. He slowly sits himself up to popping his neck to reaching his gun grabbing it and stands tall. What Naruto did was not only risky and daring, but also smart with the use of the propane tank, as well as saving up bullets. It all only took a single shot to start a bonfire of zombies. Naruto made his way to the kitchen and decided to take this opportunity to search for perhaps something to eat, something that was light. Upon opening drawers he found some beef jerky and decided to take it. Who doesn't like beef jerky? He put it within his pack and searched another drawer and what he found was one of Umbrella's famous products being healing spray but only one. Now even though Naruto has a healing factor which he was still unbeknownst of the healing spray can't still come in handy, so he obviously takes it putting it within his pack. He walks to the back door parting the screen door open walking into the clear backyard, seeing no dogs or cats, but pieces of burning wood being debris from the house next door. Naruto stops within the center of the yard and looks to the burning house that he light up. "God you bastards," Naruto said darkly under his breath as he continued to look upon the fire. Looking upon the fire that reflected within his eyes like a mirror his head began to hurt again and an image of two of burning buildings flashed in his head. As quickly as the images in his head came along with the headache it was gone and he even thought he heard the echoes of screams. What was going on with his head recently? Ever since all of these things have been happening, ever since he woke up in this nightmare his head receives pain. Why? Was he perhaps remembering that night which he made himself forget? The ones he wishes not to recall. He decided to shut those thoughts out turning to the fence seeing a door able to be opened. He walked over to it with his gun at the ready, unlocks it, and parts open the fence door opening out into a street. He looks down the sidewalks the door opened upon looking down both ways seeing no zombies in sight, but ahead of him, 3 of them were being the slow turtle pace walking kind. He quickly but quietly moved to a parked car, having a dead man within with his body over the steering wheel, the glass within the front of the vehicles having cracks from a single bullet hole. He ducked down behind it just in time before one of the zombies on the street turns his direction, but didn't take sight of him. Instead it looks back down its original direction and proceeds on its original slow walking path. Now peeks around the corner of the vehicle he was ducked behind looking down the street that leads upon a highway heading into Raccoon City. He did not know how to drive a car, so he would have to proceed on foot, which would take him a couple of minutes, but he was going to bear it, he would have to. Seeing no zombies on the street ahead of him, he sprints down the street from behind cover with his intended destination being Raccoon City General Hospital, within the doomed raccoon. Meanwhile back within Naruto's neighborhood at his house the front door is kicked down and entering were 6 individuals and upon the shoulders of their black outfits was a patch that said USS. It was none other than the notorious Wolfpack which proceeded into the living room. Lupo, Vector, Bertha, Beltway, Spectre and Four Eyes proceeding through the dark house and the guns they had no flashlights upon. Each one of them had a different weapon with Vector holding a suppressed rifle with a UBCS standard issue pistol holstered as his sidearm like everyone else. Beltway has an assault shotgun along with his bombs he brought along. Four Eyes armed with a submachine gun, Spectre with his pistol and his anti-material rifle upon his back, Bertha armed with an assault rifle, and finally Lupo with her tactical SMG. Wolfpack was here for one person and one person only being Naruto Namikaze or otherwise called by Umbrella, Subject 9. Wolfpack was assigned Operation Fox Hunt, which was basically the retrieval and capture of Naruto Namikaze for the Umbrella Corporation. Wolfpack knew that they could have assigned someone else to do this job, but they saw this as punishment for the whole situation, with Raccoon City being their fault. However, if Umbrella saw past this they would have realized it was Birkin's fault and USS Alpha Team's failure to contain the virus samples. If a certain Alpha USS operative never shot down Birkin in that lab, then maybe Birkin would have never injected himself with the G virus mutating himself and killing off Alpha Team setting loose T virus to the rats. So it was Birkin's fault, but seeing as Birkin works for Umbrella who supported him and the works of virology in his lab, thus creating the G virus, it was the company's own fault. USS forces were dispatched into the city with their objective being them finding any evidence that would link the corporation to the outbreak, as well as kill any possible survivors. Wolfpack however was given a different assignment that a USS team failed to do today, and it was the capture of Subject 9, erasing possible evidence was secondary for them, but recommended that they carry it out. Lupo calls for them to do an immediate search of the house, hoping that Subject 9 was still here so they could be airlifted out of this hellhole. Vector, Beltway and Spectre go upstairs while Lupo, Bertha and Four Eyes search the bottom floor. When Lupo arrived within Minato's office, she immediately took notice of the dead STARS member, with his head down being Minato Namikaze. "I got a body," Lupo said over communications to her pack. Earth arrived within the bedroom of Minato and Kushina and took notice of an open chest. She walked over it looking inside seeing that it was empty, but it obviously held something within or rather it did. "I got an empty chest," Bertha said, but it held something important. She did take notice of the lock on the ground next to it, the important thing being the weapons that did lie within. "I got a body as well. He's one of us." Four Eyes said over communication looking upon the dead USS operative on the kitchen floor, but then took notice of the zombie make that two bodies. "It's a zombie." Vector, Beltway and Spectre were now amongst the second floor with Beltway searching the bathroom. Spectre searching the rest of the floor going down the hall to the broken window looking down seeing the walking corpse of the other USS operative now a zombie. "Found the other one," Spectre said. Vector walks into Naruto's room looking around seeing no one within, but he did take notice of the bed sheets, looking like they were disturbed as they were not neatly upon the bed. Someone was lying upon it and it was obviously Naruto, and this had to be his room seeing the look of the inside. Vector walking to stopping beside the bed looking down upon where Naruto surely rested. "I found the kid's room," Vector said over communication amongst the entire pack. "Is he there?" Lupo asked. "No. Damn it. So who's going to tell command?" Spectre asked. "Obviously me," Lupo said as she brought two fingers up to her ear and muttered under her breath, "Idiot." She then established contact with USS Command. "Delta Team to USS Command come in. This is Command Wolfpack, have you retrieved the target?" "Negative Command, the subject is not here, nowhere in sight." "Damn. We do have a dead officer, it's Minato Namikaze." "Well, at least he is dead." "What do we do now Command? The target had gone." "What do you do?" "Your mission. Find him. He could be anywhere. You have all the time in the world Wolfpack. You are not leaving the city until you have Subject 9 within your grasp and within the company's hands." Vector walks into the room Lupo is in and immediately takes sight of Minato Namikaze. "Is that understood?" "Yes Command." "Good. Command over and out." "So what's the situation?" Vector asked the Delta team leader. "We keep searching for Subject 9, even if it means all of Raccoon." "Seriously, is this kid really that important?" "The umbrella it seems and high importance," Lupo said leaving the room leaving Vector behind in it. Vector looks upon the dead Minato Namikaze and sights the man's STARS jacket sitting upon the table. He walked over to it grabbing the jacket and set it upon Minato's head covering his face and upper half of his body. Vector then leaves the room heading to the living room area, joining with the rest of Wolfpack. "Okay, listen up. Command is not happy that the target is not here." "So what do we do now?" Beltway asked. "We track him down," Lupo answered. "Never had I complained before, but are you kidding me?" Spectre asked. "It's orders from the top." "Even so, what do they want us to do? Search this entire neighborhood?" "All of Raccoon, we're not leaving until we have Subject 9. "This is insane. He could be anywhere out there," Bertha said. "We better get to work tracking him then," Four Eyes said. Vector was walking around within the kitchen already working on tracking Naruto. He obviously took notice of the broken glass door that was shot down by a bullet and went outside into the back, his shoes crunching the glass. Upon entering the backyard he took notice of a zombie that walked from around the corner of the house to his right, and it was that other USS operative now a zombie. It slowly walked his way and Vector just gazes at the creature, but his vision is brought away as he notices the fence, seeing what looks like someone went over it, a foot leaving scrapes within the wood. Without even looking he fires a single shot back at the zombie hitting its head being an instant kill. Vector continued to look upon the scraps in the fence left behind by Naruto's shoes who climbed over the fence. "Did you find something?" Lupo asked walking toward Vector along with the rest of the pack. "I found a trail." Vector said he went over this fence. "He's heading north?" Four Eyes asked. "And what's north of here?" Vector asked them as he already knew the answer. They all obviously took notice of the tall buildings within the city of Raccoon in the distance. "The city?" Bertha said. "Why would he go toward the cold zone?" Lupo asked. "How do we even know he went toward the city itself?" Spectre asked. "He could have very well heading in the direction out of the city." "The barricades would deny him," Beltway said. "Pretty sure if the US Army saw him approaching they would shoot him on sight." "Are we sure he even went this way?" Four Eyes asked. Then they all slightly lower their forms from the explosion down ahead in the direction Naruto went. "I'm positive," Vector said. "Let's move," Lupo said. Wolfpack proceeded to take the path that Naruto took hopping the fences and upon dropping in one of the yards, they took notice of a hole in a fence. They go through it into the next yard finding the dead zombies, Crimson head severed in half and a dead infected dog. "What have we here?" Bertha said. Vector then found a magazine, and looking upon it, he could tell what kind of gun it went to, knowing it came from a HK-MK.23 pistol. He tossed it to Lupo, who caught. He's armed with an MK.23, and by the looks of it, seeing how clean the cut of the crimson head is, he also appears to be armed with a sword. Vector said. Vector also noticed that the crimson head was cut in half and has a strong swing as well. Wolfpack continued upon Naruto's taken path, and they soon drop into the yard, and now looking upon the flaming inferno of the house Naruto blew up. Did Subject 9 do this? Four Eyes asked. No idea. Lupo said. Lupo takes notice of the other house, seeing its broken window like someone jumped through it. Looks like he jumped through the window before the place blew up. They then proceed going into the next yard and take notice of the left open door built within the fence exiting out into the street. Wolfpack immediately goes through out into the street and sights the three walking turtle-pace zombies that turn their direction. Wolfpack did not even bother, as before the zombies would even reach them they would be gone. It must have gone this way, Lupo said as they all looked down the street heading toward Raccoon City, the street Naruto took on foot toward the city. Let's go. What if Naruto Raccoon City Resident Evil end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.